Steph Bear, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. Holy shit. Chat, it's Krams' birthday today, too. That's how you know Krams is a true American.
Feels birthday man clap.
Wait, hold on. What is this? Blau, would you ever be down to go on Chud Mondays with Hanner, Sam, and Chibley? I love that group. They're great. What is Chud Mondays? What do they do on Chud Mondays? Any fourth plans? I am going to the core party, chat. I'm gonna go LARP as a 20-something streamer with a bunch of 20-something streamers. You shut out and play games? Oh, fuck yeah. Listen, chat. Empires come and go. Okay, you want my honest take? Empires come and go. Someone's going to be the big dog running the show. And I'm just happy it's us right now. That's right. Hey, cheers, chat. Friday night, pair of jeans that sit just right. Oh, hell nah. Wait, can I LARP? Can I LARP can I do full on Chud LARP today and just go, can I right wing grift today and just go full Chud? That'd be kind of, I think I could do a good right wing grift. That's not just a normal stream. It's not LARP when it's real, brother. Little bit of chicken fry. Cold beer on a Friday night. Chat, listen, it's really hard for me to talk politics with people on Twitch or just with Twitch trash. Listen, y'all, everyone is so tribal and so like, it's impossible to get people to like, I don't know. For instance, if we were to have an interesting political conversation with chat, I could have I could have a nuanced conversation with you guys about how the movement of empires and the concept of imperialization and empire is a prevailing force in human culture and human history. And you can actually kind of map in certain areas throughout the world when like regional hegemonies took control. You know, for instance, people love to, it's like everyone like, oh my God, the imperialist America. Like people don't realize like the Aztecs were imperialistic. They were an empire, right? They exerted their will upon the Yucatan Peninsula and parts of Central America, right? The Aztecs were an empire. You know, there's obviously the Roman Empire. What's really interesting, what gets cool is when you look at the rise and fall of empires throughout time, and you start to have like a better sense of why certain empires thrive, why some fall, etc. And it's like, yeah, certainly America is an empire right now. But it's like an empire competing with other empires. And, you know, there's some like really cool conversations that can come out of that, but people choose to just, computer, can you explain? Oh yeah, we can do chud format. Can you explain this in chud? Yeah, I'm gonna tell you what, why America's the greatest empire that's ever existed. Let me tell you what, boy. I give the US 20 more years. The US, I think, we'll see. I think the 21st century is a major competition between the Chinese sphere of influence and the United States. The problem is it can't be 20 more years because the entire global financial banking and banking system are all based on the United States. There's a lot more in the world that is tied to the United States. I think China's been making much more progress and has been certainly eating away at the United States influence and growing their own influence. But 20 years is that is a insane timeline. The American Empire has probably at least 100 more years. Maybe not 100, but it's certainly more than 50. Anyways, but yeah, these are conversations that I don't know if Twitch chat likes to have. What's playing right now? That's right. Not to worry about world chat. I got cold Coke Zero in my hand. So, Blau, do you think Team USA can beat Team Belgium? Absolutely. We're calling it soccer, guys. What's the one where it's like he's bouncing on my booty? Is it this one? I think it's this one. Is Canada playing right now? I will say, chat. I as a huge fan of like a lot of Canadian things, I fucking love. Hold on, there's like some dope Canadian like patriotism stuff that I fucking love. Fuck, why can't I find it? Hello? Search. Why does this Instagram search? Why do you not work? Canada search. No, I'm not looking for people. I'm reels. I don't care. I don't know who this is. I don't. Canada. It won't let me search. Man, there was a really cool reel and it was like all this like hype Canadian shit. You know what? I want to say I've sent it to Chatterbox before. Maybe if I look at my DMs with him. I feel like I've sent this to Chatterbox. Oh my God, I did. Holy shit. I pulled this out of my oh my God, I pulled this out of my DMs from Chatterbox. Here it is.
Look at them yo-yos. That's the way you do it. You play.
Yeah. I hope Canada beats Morocco. I don't think they will, but I'll cheer for them. I'll definitely cheer for them. Anyways, chat, welcome to the stream, everyone. Welcome. We are doing an all-day React 4th of July stuff until I go to the core 4th of July party and I LARP as a younger streamer, which will be great. I'm actually really excited because I think their 4th of July party is going to be fucking crazy. So that'll be fun. Chat, it's the United States 250th birthday. Which is pretty awesome. Yeah, dude, guys, who the fuck is rooting for England? Bro, we are rooting for Mexico. Are you kidding me? After the United States, I'm rooting for Mexico and Canada. Those are my homies. They're up there, down there. They're just nearby. 250 and nobody cares. Hey, we care. Okay, United States cares. We're pretty I care. Let's go US. Fuck yeah. That's right. Proud to be in America. That's right. Controversial take. I kind of like the United States. Oh God. I say I like our current iteration, but overall, I think of empires, it's not the worst one we could have. Listen, I wouldn't trade it for the fucking Soviet. What are my other options right now that I could have right now? The fucking Soviet Empire? Fuck that. Hell no. Hell no. China? Listen, yeah, I'm sure many people would support a Chinese empire. I don't know if you'd enjoy being, I don't know, gay in that Chinese empire. Or, I don't know, freely practicing your religious beliefs, but Canada, okay, lil bro, Canada never had a chance of being an empire. Come on, relax. Canada never had a chance of being an empire. Come on, lil bro. Let's be honest. Fuck. What was I? Oh, we want to do a president tier list. Chat, it's true. Canada was never going to be an empire, guys. Bring back the Roman Empire. Mexico did it. Yeah, Mexico could have had a chance at an empire. Bring back the Roman Empire. We should oh my God, we should compare yeah, Canada's a great supporting character. We should compare the American Empire to the Roman Empire. I mean, actually, the Roman Empire is a really good way of understanding the concept. Yeah, wait, Empire tier list? Oh my God, Empire tier list. Empires of the world tier list. Okay, first of all, I like British Empire's F tier. They are fucking Ooh, but here's the problem. The Han dynasty was not really was hardly empire. Oh, Byzantines, B tier for sure. I don't understand this list because how can you say the Han Dynasty was it's not was the Han Dynasty really an empire? Like the Tang and Han dynasties, I wouldn't really consider. Oh, Rome is S tier, S tier empire, right? Am I crazy? Like these, I wouldn't really consider these. You know what I mean? Mm. Aztec, E tier. The Aztec Empire was barely around. Yeah, listen, I know we're off of Pride Month, but one thing you guys have to remember of like ruling power of ruling powers, since we're coming off of Pride Month, I think a question the gays should ask is like, could I be gay in this empire? Roman Empire, probably, actually. Soviet Empire, fuck no. The Han Dynasty expanded over 2.5 million square miles. I would argue like empires is less about the sheer extent of expansion and more like what people. Let me see actually. Han Dynasty map. Because the problem is, yeah, so it's like I guess maybe this was originally where like we get the Han Chinese from was because of the Han Dynasty. But you have to understand that like it wasn't the Han like it was still mostly just modern day China. But I do think that you're right in that it wouldn't. So for those wondering, about 90% of China is ethnically Han Chinese, and a lot of that comes from the Han Dynasty. So my guess is that the peoples were actually more diverse before this dynasty. So yeah, okay. I give it empire status then. Okay. The Han Dynasty was a massive and powerful empire. Golden Age of I think one of the reasons why maybe I don't sometimes consider some of the Chinese dynasties is that like Chinese history, granted, was an empire within the region of now even modern day China and was still certainly an empire within this region. It was still mostly Southeast Asia, whereas something like the Roman Empire was Europe, Africa, the Middle East, parts of other parts of Asia as well, like sort of spanned more regions. I don't know. No, you know what? I shouldn't gatekeep. That's pretty. You know what? Good shit, guys. Sick empire. Um, where's where's the modern day empire? Where's the US? How do we feel about Napoleon's empire? Honestly, they had kind of a sick run. For their time, they actually had a pretty crazy run. Yeah, I'd put them at A tier. I think they were solid A tier. Wow, in 2028, are you going to come to Canada for the Hockey World Cup? Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Was the Macedonia Empire, that's Alexander the Great? I will say, Alexander the Great's empire for the time, oh my God. At its height was crazy. For the time, this was fucking wild. He was also really young, too. And now,
what should we do? We could try taxing the colonies. Great idea. Wait. Holy smokes. Christopher Columbus, that is no way to address the king and queen of Spain. What is wrong with you?
It's time to learn
so
about
now
the
we're looking for a new
Revolutionary
trade route
War.
to India, right? Right. And the earth is round, right? Right. So I'm thinking we can just sail the other way around the planet, right? Yeah. So I set sail, right? And I reach India, right? Right. Wrong. Wrong. I did not reach India. I did not. All right. No. All right. Get to the point. Did you know there's a whole nother freaking continent out there? Okay, and do you think I should care about this? Why? Oh, I'm sorry. Did I forget to mention there's gold everywhere? Gold? Columbus landed in Central America in October 1492, and he had the time of his life. And by that I mean he went on a huge theft and murder spree. He stole gold, jewelry, people, and a hammock. And then he returned to show off all of his riches, including a few previously undiscovered items, such as tobacco, the pineapple, turkeys, and a hammock. Now I know what you're thinking, but oversimplified, Columbus didn't discover America, the Vikings did. And you'd be partially right. In the 11th century, Leif Erikson was the first European to land in America. But hey, if you love Vikings so much, then why don't you check out today's sponsor, Vikings War of
We already saw this sponsor. Okay.
British troops and Native Americans.
So
After
George
short battles,
Washington
said,
takes
"All
his
right, we
troops."
surrender. Okay, boys, pack it up. They're surrender. Oh, sorry. Was I not meant to split his head open with a tomahawk? Don't worry. It's not like this will start a 7-year-long major global conflict. And what happened next was a 7-year-long major global conflict, which Great Britain won. At the peace negotiations, Spain gave up Florida, while France gave up all of its territories in North America. But Britain's victory came at a cost, a £60 million cost. They were now broke, in a lot of debt, and had to come up with some way to repay it. So they went to the colonies and said, okay, listen up. So a huge part of the war was spent protecting you from the French, and now we have no money because of it. So I'm not sure what you're saying here. Okay, so we spent a lot of money protecting you from the French, right? Right. And now we're broke. That certainly is a pickle. Listen to me. We spent all of our money protecting you, and now we need money. Can you please pay us back some money? No. Okay, we're just going to go ahead and tax you. In 1764, Britain introduced the Sugar Act, forcing the colonists to import sugar and molasses exclusively from the British and to pay duties on them. Then a year later, they introduced the extremely controversial...
It's also funny because the French were integral in helping us win. I forgot. I think it's during World War... It's either during World War I or World War II. Or both. You said an American never pays his debts. Actually, it's funny you mentioned that and mentioned the French. During, I think, it might have been World War I or World War II or both. But American troops, when they marched into France, would chant and say, like, Lafayette, we are coming for you. It was literally a reference to the United States paying back the debt to France, and saving France in their time of need. You guys have to understand, like during World War, I think it was World War II. In World War I, like France never like actually got fully in World War II. France lost its sovereignty. Like France genuinely did not have their sovereignty. They were completely under German or Nazi Germany rule, or you had the Vichy French who were sympathetic to the Nazis in power. Like, it was completely fucked. So you're welcome, France. Honestly, low key of homie alliances, the United States and France have always had like a pretty like tight alliance. We've actually always fucked with the French, like pretty heavy.
actual Stamp Act, and it worked a little something like this. Hello, shopkeep. Hello, Mr. Bungleberry. Here's the deed for your new shack. Stamp. That'll be 3 pence, please. Wait, what was that? It's the new tax. I get a stamp on any paper or documentation I make, and you have to pay for it. Would you like to see this pamphlet that explains everything? Yes?
Would America be better if England still ruled? No.
Please. Okay. Stamp. 2 pence, please. This is awful. You know what? Just give me a deck of cards so I can go gamble my pain away. Okay. No. Don't do it.
I'd say yes. What would be better about America if England still ruled? Just take a look at who you elected. Yeah, there's one really important word in there. Who we elected. That's the key. It took, I mean, and obviously the British monarchy was eventually phased out, but it took a pretty long time. Yeah, they elect now, but they didn't for a while, okay? The royal family still ruled for a hot minute and had influence for a hot minute, okay? Relax there.
Damn. Obviously the colonists were like, hey, my dudes, this new tax.
Hey, listen, if you can't handle us at our Donald J. Trumps, you don't deserve us at our FDR, okay?
Tax legislation right here, this is BS. Until now, they had enjoyed relative freedom to rule themselves, and now suddenly Britain was asserting its control. They were especially unhappy because they didn't have any representatives in the parliament that was levying taxes on them. So they protested. Orators gave fiery speeches. British goods were boycotted, and anyone loyal to the British found themselves increasingly harassed. The whole thing actually began to...
By the way, I will note this.
Fiery speeches. British goods were boycotted.
I will
anyone
note
loyal
that
to the British found themselves increasingly harassed.
This is something that history kind of glazed over a bit. The act of tarring and feathering someone, I think a lot of us thought that it was like a prank, like, aha, look, he's got feathers all. No, it was awful. It was like boiling tar. It was like hot tar. It would burn you. It was fucked up. Tarring and feathering was actually really messed up.
The whole thing actually began to take quite a toll on British business, and after just a couple years, the British were forced to repeal the Stamp Act. But we still desperately need money. What should we do? We could try taxing the colonies. Great idea. Wait, didn't we literally just try that and it failed miserably? Man, look at me. I look fabulous. Have you ever seen such a handsome boy? No siree, Georgie. No way. You're the
God, look at those calves, though. When can men start wearing this? When can men start dressing like this again? Bring me back. Bring me back to the... I'm tired of these men dressing like sissies. Bring me back to the glorious days of masculinity. That's right. Let me tell you what.
handsomest, smartest, most popular king that ever lived, and everybody likes you. You're doing such a good job. Your Majesty? Oh, you're still here. Get the hell out. So in 1766, the British made a declaration saying, we can do what we want because we're in charge and you can all go suck it. Then they levied a whole bunch of new taxes on the Americans via import duties. Glass? There's a tax for that. Lead? There's a tax for that. Paper? Tea? Oil? There's a tax for that. And once again, the Americans boycotted British goods, British business felt the pinch, and the British had to back down. Alright, this is ridiculous. They're my colonies, and I have to be able to assert my control. Repeal all the new taxes except for the one on tea. Also send 1,000 troops to Boston to take control. Oh, and make the colonists pay for them. And as British troops arrived, the tension in Boston was palpable. You could cut it with a knife, and it was all about to come to a head. On March 5th, a band of local patriots began heckling a British guard at the customs house. More and more Americans joined in the heckling, while more British troops turned up in support of their comrade. Snowballs were thrown at the British. The snowballs turned to rocks, the rocks to oyster shells. The soldiers, outnumbered, panicked. One thing leads to another, and you can see where this is going. 5 civilians were killed. The Patriot press throughout the colonies declared the Boston Massacre an unwarranted crime committed against the people of Boston by the cruel British, and the anger continued to grow. A British revenue schooner that ran aground in Rhode Island was burned by the locals. When it came to light that the governor of Massachusetts supported the suppression of the colonists, his house was burned by the locals. And next, the colonists would set their sights on the remaining tax on tea. On December 16, 1773, a band of patriots known as the Sons of Liberty disguised themselves as Native Americans, marched down to Boston Harbor, boarded a British merchant ship loaded with tea, and in front of thousands of spectators, threw nearly 10,000 pounds worth of tea overboard. The British were disgusted. And they
Not the tea!
With a vengeance. They dissolved its General Assembly, revoked their charter, and sent 3,000 more troops to occupy the city, meaning Boston and Massachusetts were now essentially under the direct rule of Great Britain. And oh boy, were the people pissed. The other colonies saw what was happening and worried they might be next. So they called a brain trust to decide what to do. 56 delegates from 12 colonies gathered and met in Philadelphia at the First Continental Congress. And the roll call read like a who's who of America's finest thinkers. I'm talking lawyers extraordinaire Johnny A. and Johnny J, experienced military commander George Washington, businessman and future alcoholic beverage Samuel Adams.
Yeah.
Patty H., guy who married a rich lady, Big J. Dickinson. And while they weren't present at the first Congress, Sioux names like James Madison, Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Jefferson, and much later Alexander Hamilton would all
Alexander Hamilton.
serve time in the Continental Congress. The question now, though, was what to do about the British. After much bitter debate and disagreement, they eventually agreed on an amazing solution. They would simply ask the British to stop. Can you stop? No, it didn't work. Okay, then tell the local militias to start arming and be ready at a minute's notice. And across the colonies, these Minutemen stood ready for the beginning of the American Revolutionary War. Now, having your colonies in open rebellion
Was the term Minutemen because you had to be ready for battle within a minute? Was that the concept of Minutemen for like a militia?
is one thing. Once they start arming themselves, that's when it really hits the fan. So British General Thomas Gage ordered 700 troops from Boston out into the rebel-controlled Massachusetts countryside to destroy stores of arms and ammunition held by the rebels in Concord.
It's important we mention their ages here because they were always use their old man pictures. Most were in their early 20s. I don't think most were in their early 20s. I think they were in their 30s, no? How old? Let's find out, actually. I don't know. How old were the founding fathers in... Hamilton was young. So the founding fathers had an average age of 44 when the Declaration was signed. Their average age was 44. Yeah, I wouldn't say they were in their 20s. Most were in their 20s is not true. Great. This is when the Declaration of Independence is signed. So this is a few years later, I think. They were in the average age was 44. Who were all the founding fathers? And this is George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, John Adams, John Madison, Alexander Hamilton, Benjamin Franklin, John Jay, Samuel Adams, Patrick Henry, George Mason, John Hancock. Age of all the founding fathers we'll do in 1776. Signers of the Declaration of Independence. Yeah, I listen. Working class here. You can't be saying that they were mostly in their 20s. Come on. Of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, we had Edward Rutledge and Thomas Lynch, who were in their 20s. Benjamin Rush and Thomas Hayward, both at 30. Most are in there, but I mean, like, there's a lot that are not. To be fair, I actually, if anything, I thought they were younger. I thought it was like most of them were in. Oh my God, did my camera freeze? Hello? Hello? I thought most of them were in like their 30s, but no, it's actually like, I didn't know, like, for instance, Sam Adams was 53. Well, not early, but this was 8 years before the sign. Okay. Working class hero, I want you to take all of these numbers and subtract 8 from them. Take all of these numbers and subtract 8 and tell me if you get 20s. I don't think you get 20s. These would all be in their 20s. And the average age is still probably not even in the 30s. It's probably still in the 40s. For instance, I also didn't know Ben Franklin was 70. Damn. Okay, Sam Adams was 53. Who is Francis Lightfoot Lee? John Adams is 40. Thomas Jefferson was pretty young. TJ was pretty. So Thomas Jefferson would have been 33 here and then 25 during the original meeting. Damn. All right, back to it.
The British set out in the middle of the night. Patriots, including Paul Revere, rode ahead to warn that the British were coming, giving the rebels time to prepare. The two
Oh,
sides
they're
met
coming?
as the sun began to rise. They faced off against each other, and in the confusion, somebody shot first. The shot heard around the world marked the beginning of the American War of Independence. The rebels were outnumbered and had to fall back to Concord as the British split up to search for rebel supplies. However, more and more Patriot rebels kept showing up, and this time it was the British who were outnumbered as more fighting kicked off in Concord. The most professional army in the world was forced to flee back to Boston at the hands of local, poorly trained militiamen, and all along the British route back to Boston, Patriot rebels continued to gather and open fire on the retreating British. When the British reached Boston, the rebel militia surrounded them. Boston and the British were now under siege as small land and naval skirmishes continued around the city. And the British would suffer another embarrassing blow, this time in upstate New York. Colonel Benedict Arnold concocted a plan to take the British stronghold Fort Ticonderoga, which held a large amount.
There's no way Ben Franklin actually discovered electricity. Did he? I feel like he did. I thought he was. I think he was credited with it, but I don't know if he actually did. I don't know.
Of guns and ammunition. He set off towards the fort alone, hoping to recruit men along the way, when he came across the Green Mountain Boys, led by Ethan Allen, who, as it turned out, had the exact same plan he did. So they decided to work together. But I'm in charge. No, 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 I'm in charge. This went on for some time, until the Green Mountain Boys threatened to go home, and Arnold had to concede. The group raided the fort at night while the Redcoats were asleep, and they caught them completely by surprise, taking the fort and all of its munitions with almost no resistance. Wow, great job, Ethan. Very impressive. By the way, what happened to that other guy we sent to take the fort? Who? Benedict Arnold. Never heard of him. Ouch. What the fuck? Nobody knew what was going on. The colonies were in open rebellion, and for now, they even seemed to be winning. So King George fired General Gage, replaced him with General William Howe, and ordered the rebellion to be put down immediately. Okay, the British are definitely going to retaliate for all of this, so we should probably put together a proper army. First, we need to pick a commander-in-chief, and I think we can all agree that that job should go to the man, the myth, the legend, George Washington. My friends, I am humbled and honored that you would consider me for such an important role. I did not expect for this. All right, you've been showing up in a military uniform every day for the last 10 months. We all know you wanted this, so cut the crap, George. Dude. Uncool. So Washington began his journey up to Boston to take command of the newly established.
Do you guys know that early on they were down to make George Washington king? Like there was like a lot of discussion about just making George Washington like King George of the United States.
Continental Army.
Fun
Just
fact.
as the British made their first major attempt to break the siege, they made plans to take the high ground on Bunker Hill, but spies warned the Continentals of the British plans, so they fortified Bunker Hill and set up defensive positions on nearby Breed's Hill. The day of the battle came, and as the British advanced, a barrage of Continental gunfire was opened up on them. Twice they tried to climb the hill, twice they were pushed back. The battle lasted 3 hours until the Continentals finally ran out of ammunition and had to retreat, allowing the British to take the hill. While technically a British victory, they suffered nearly 1,000 casualties to the Continentals' 400. The colonists showed the British that this wasn't just a rebellion, it was war, and they were ready for it. But one thing they weren't sure about was why they were fighting. While some radicals were starting to throw around the I word, most hoped to eventually repair their relationship with Great Britain. So they sent a letter to King George saying, "Hey man, looks like things aren't going your way.
Hey.
Remove the taxes and let's be friends. I'm gonna kick your ass." Send that to the colonies, Your Majesty.
A huge. This is also another thing that people sort of miss on the Revolutionary War. The Revolutionary War was not a war for independence originally. The original purpose of the Revolutionary War was actually a armed protest against the British, and did not many members of the people involved in it, like, yeah, obviously there were talks of independence early on, and there were talks of independence even before the war, but a lot of people involved in it were not thinking, oh, we're going to go form the fucking United States, we're going to go form our own country. Now, and they were down to repair things with England. So a huge part of the Revolutionary War is actually King George's, like, basically stubbornness to negotiate with them.
Writing is terrible. Are you sure? Just do it. What does it say? He's gonna lick my... Gross. So for the remainder of the year, small engagements continued to occur around the colonies. The British burned down the towns of Falmouth, Massachusetts and Norfolk, Virginia as revenge for earlier anti-British incidents. These actions played right into the hands of patriot propaganda. Overseas, the British were seen as brutes, and the French and Spanish would soon begin sending supplies to the rebel cause. During this time, there was also minor fighting going on between patriot and loyalist militias in the southern colonies. Benedict Arnold was still on a mission to win some personal glory for himself, so he headed up an attempt to invade Canada in a two-pronged attack. The Continentals managed to capture some British forts and the city of Montreal, but a harsh snowstorm with some smallpox on the side saw them defeated and pushed back at Quebec City, and they were forced to retreat all the way to Fort Ticonderoga. Speaking of which, remember all those guns and ammunition? Well, this guy's got a plan for what to do with them. He uses oxen to drag 120,000 pounds of artillery for 2 months through the harsh winter, 300 miles all the way to Washington and his Continental Army surrounding Boston. Boom. Washington's got himself some big guns, which is fortunate because up until now his army had been suffering through the cold winter, not knowing when the siege would end. Now, they could make a move. Washington wanted to launch a full assault on the city, but his junior officers felt the British were too fortified, and to his credit, Washington was great at hearing and taking on board the ideas of others. Instead, the Continentals worked through the night setting the guns up on Dorchester Heights, overlooking the city, and when dawn broke and the British saw the guns, they knew they were toast. Their positions were completely exposed. It was checkmate. They had no choice but to abandon the city. 120 ships carried 9,000 redcoats and 2,000 loyalists away to an unknown fate, and Washington had his first victory of the war. Washington then moved his army to New York, knowing that when the British returned, they would probably land there. In the meantime, a friendly-looking old man by the name of Thomas Paine had written and published a pamphlet called Common Sense, in which he advocated for total independence from Great Britain. It spread across the colonies like wildfire, and to this day remains the best-selling title in America. It was read aloud in taverns and meeting halls, and brought the idea of independence
Hell
into the
yeah.
mainstream. Congress began to seriously consider the idea. Thomas Jefferson was selected to write up an official Declaration of Independence.
Hell
He worked
yeah,
hard to recognize
TJ.
that all men are created equal, with certain inalienable rights, including life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Of course, Jefferson had over 100 slaves, but we don't have to talk about that. On the 2nd of July, Congress voted unanimously in favor of independence.
On the note of founding fathers and slavery, this is a tricky one where I'm like, I'm not like, oh, well, it was fine that they had slaves. But I'm also like, everyone had fucking slaves. Like it was part of what was going, like, it's really weird it's kind of like I also think that Thomas Jefferson probably didn't view women very well because everyone at the time didn't view women very well. I think that there are particularly cruel people and particularly fucked up, slave owners. I don't know. It's a very weird, like, the other thing, I think slavery as a concept is also, sometimes it's both. It's weird. I feel like we teach it incorrectly in U.S. education. I feel like a lot of like Southern schools, and you're like, that's where America can do no wrong. They gloss over America's, entire backdrop of slavery in the United States. So they do that. And then you have like the super revisionist, almost like anti-American history that fully focuses on how America was this like slave empire and all that stuff, without like really realizing that slavery was just a practice of empire, right? Like any empire enslaved, like that's why I talked to you guys at the very start of the stream, the concept of empire. Any empire enslaved people, slaves were just a common practice of any empire that you've ever seen existed, right? It was normalized, but I'm pretty sure anyone who actually thought about it at the time would realize it was fucked. That's part of critical race theory. Spending my birthday watching twitch.tv/Blau. I'm such a fat fucking chat. I don't know how does that work? This is always an interesting concept to me of like, it's like, I feel like sometimes it's like if you were white and you were born into a land holding family with like the same amount of money as Thomas Jefferson, that you would just grow up and be like, wait a minute, I shouldn't have slaves. Let me free them all. Like that you would be unique. Is that what that claims? So let me frame it to you this way, chat. You are now born to a wealthy family in the colonies that has land and has slaves. And uniquely you would grow up and be like, wait a minute, we shouldn't have slaves. Like, I don't buy that. I think that's pretty fucking silly. Yeah, someone said high key yes. Well, what's interesting is you can look at some of the founding, like, oh, here's a founding father who was against slavery, was my fucking boy Hamilton. But look at Hamilton's upbringing. High key, yes, because I'm black. Okay, maybe. You know what? I mean, let's say you're born white. Let's say you're born. Fuck, I remember when we did this hypothetical. I was like, okay, let's say you're born in like 1920s Germany, and like you're probably going to be like indoctrinated into the Nazi party, or you might support the Nazi party or something like that. And someone's like, no, because I'm black. I'm like, oh, you know what? That's actually a fair point. No, I mean, like, so don't get me wrong. There were Hamilton was anti-slavery, but also had slaves. I mean, that's like Hassan being anti-capitalism, but also driving a Porsche, you know? Same thing. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Well, sorry, you set that one up for me too easy. To be fair, the chatter said someone who thinks about it. Most people that you're saying wouldn't think about it. Okay, pause. This is another concept that well, I'll push back against this. There's 2 points here. One, wouldn't think about it. You have to understand that it's the context of the society that you're growing up in. You are shaped by your society, just as they are growing up in a time of these, you know, a lot of agrarian society and these, you know, plantations, et cetera, that are run by slaves, and there's sort of a normalcy that they see in that. So too, do you guys start to adopt dumbass language and memes because everyone's saying 6'7" and you're addicted to Love Island because you watch Love Island? That's what you think about because that's the culture that you're surrounded with, right? So there's number one, which is what are you actually consciously thinking of? And then number two, I would push back against that. Oh, like the people at this time weren't thinking. I actually would argue they were doing a lot. Like, I don't know, bro. They did a lot of thinking and a lot of writing. That's kind of all they had to do. They didn't have fucking tablets and like this is the idea of like the Enlightenment era and people taking their time to write and read and do a lot of these things. In a way, that's kind of all they had time to do. What we do is we just fucking consume media and be chuds. Sponsored by Chud Light, right? Like they were thinking. I just, again, I think what people tend to do is you project your 21st century sensibilities and your 21st century cultural norms into a time and era that it doesn't make sense for you to do that. It's not that they like, I think it's easier to think that, oh, these guys are evil guys because they had slaves. I think that's easier to think that way. I think a harder thing is to accept that that was those were long-standing social mores that they were a part of, and that it was actually a lot more complicated. And that if you were born as an aristocratic landowner, you probably would have had slaves too. There were laws to free slaves at the time. They worked around those laws in order to keep their slaves. It wasn't an unknown thing that slavery was immoral. I mean, it was a debate, sure. I mean, I don't. I think you guys are taking a 21st like revisionist history perspective on, and also at a time of like, even if it was a debate, was it the debate? Was it the focus of what people were spending their time and thought on, right? Like there's other TV shows going on right now, but all of you guys care about Love Island.
Of course, Jefferson had over 100 slaves, but we don't have to talk about that. On the 2nd of July, Congress voted unanimously in favor of independence, and John Adams
Los Maria, thanks for the prime as we talk about slavery.
declared that the 2nd of July would go down as the most remembered day in American history.
Again, but that's why I think slavery, like slavery in the United States, but also slavery on a global scale is a misunderstood thing. I think you actually tend to have two schools of thought that don't teach it very well. One, I think, tends to have this very weird, like, we're going to judge the concepts of slavery from like a 21st century perspective. And then there's another that basically denies the atrocities of slavery and tries to hide them.
Then a couple days later, independence actually came into effect. The United States of America was born. There was no turning.
If there were laws around it, that means there was at least some consensus it was fucked up. Here's Mr. Fantastic. What I would want you to do, this is what I do when I'm trying to understand something. I want you to show me, like, what were these laws? Were these laws because of moral principles, or were these laws because of the economics of it? When you say there was consensus that it was fucked, show me. Do we have what was the overwhelming, like, where was the overwhelming anti-slavery sentiment during 1776? I'd want to know that, right? Like, you know, it's one thing to go into a Twitch chat and just say things confidently. Pennsylvania Gradual Abolition Act. All right, we can learn about something today, chat. Let's check this out. Okay. Now, already, I see something very interesting. What do you notice about that date, Mr. Fantastic? So now we're already at post-war. So now we're actually past 1776. So we're now already into the era, like we're now into America's history. That's already number one. Core provisions: no immediate emancipation. Anyone who was legally enslaved before March 1st, 1780 remained enslaved for the duration of their lives. So now, I want to now, let me, so how are you telling me that there is a consensus that it's fucked up, and yet they're willing to make that big of a concession that anyone legally enslaved before March 1st, 1780 would remain enslaved for the duration of their life? Do you now see how your statement of if there were laws around it, that means there was consensus, it was fine? You realize that this is conciliatory, which means that the consensus was actually against this and that they had to make massive provisions against it. Thank you so much. I mean, like, come on. I'm always happy to engage in these kinds of discussions with chat, but like, you also have to like know Yeah, I'll go and pull it up. And so again, does that mean like slavery at the time was as chill as just sipping a cup of British tea? Well, actually, I guess that's a bad example given the whole Tea Party thing. No, obviously, were there people against it? Were there discussions of the morality of it? Oh, sure, absolutely. Was there, as you said, some consensus of immorality? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I can show you literally in that legislation alone why that consensus wasn't there. Swinging Jazz Cat, thanks for the tier 1.
Turning back now, the Americans tore down a statue of King George in New York and melted him down into 42,000 musket balls. To the British, it was treason. And if the king had his way, Washington and all of Congress.
Another working class hero makes a good point. It's also Pennsylvania, okay? And if we're talking about what was Thomas, chat, I might be an idiot. Was Thomas Jefferson from Virginia? TJ was from Virginia, right? So you're also looking at the sentiments of certain parts of the United States versus others. And Pennsylvania was not a place that was going to be. Pennsylvania was also not as prominent of a slave state as others. Sorry, got an ad. Not sure if you asked any. Fuck, I have to do this again. Hold on. What did I say? I'm gonna speed run it. Fucking ads. What did I say? Right. The law came into effect. The law was passed in 1780. So this is already after the Revolutionary War, after the establishment of the United States. Cool. That's point number 1. Point number 2 was the very first core provision says no immediate emancipation. Anyone who was legally enslaved before March 1st, 1780 remained enslaved for the duration of their lives. So my point is, it's crazy that you're saying if there were laws around it, it means there was at least some consensus it was fucked up. That doesn't seem like much consensus. That seems like a very that's a pretty big consolation there. To say there's no immediate if people viewed it as so fucked up, but were willing to let anyone born before 1780 still be a slave for the rest of their life, it doesn't. Again, I think there were people pushing for this, who were moving for this. And remember, this is Pennsylvania, not Virginia, not Georgia, right? So I think you are cherry picking one specific piece of provision that's passed after 1776 to demonstrate some abolition support in a much broader context of the culture of the 13 original colonies. And I think even within this one act, I can show you that it wasn't some massive moral grandstanding that the people had. Thank you so much. Why does it matter if it was passed after 1777? Well, because we're talking about like the context around the Revolutionary War. Washington still used loopholes to violate it. Yeah, buddy, you're acting like, but see, you're acting like that's Washington used loopholes to abuse slavery. I'm going to give you a counterpoint. Washington, as a wealthy guy in the United States, used loopholes to get around an economics law. Oh my God, which one do you think is more likely? Which one have rich people in the United States been doing when we had slaves, when we didn't have slaves? What do you think people do in the United States when they're rich? They find loopholes to get around things that cost them money. So I again, it's like, are you suggesting that's like because Washington's an immoral, evil guy, or because he's a rich dude? Yeah, why do you think I don't pay tax? No, I'm just kidding. IRS, I pay my taxes. I am not rich, by the way. Yeah, also, secondly, this is a Pennsylvania act. It's the first abolition legislation in the Americas. It's only in Pennsylvania. Again, so what I'm saying is I would say that the first state having this as their, you cannot tell me that this being the first abolition legislation in the Americas meant that that there was some consensus or some school of thought that we should be doing, right? Like, this was the start of it becoming a I would not say it was the start. I would actually reframe this. I would say this was the start of a niche movement actually gaining some degree of legislative ground. And they had to clearly have pretty massive concessions within it to even get this passed. Anyways.
Would be hung. Speaking of the British, guess who's back? The king sent an intimidating force of 130 warships and 25,000 men to New York. Washington knew that taking on the most powerful military in the world wouldn't be easy. The British set up camp on Staten Island as the Americans dug into defensive positions around Brooklyn Heights, waiting for an attack to come. But the British just waited, wearing down their opponent's nerve while building their own strength. At one point, they launched a big scary artillery barrage and then said, if I was you right now, I'd probably sue for peace. But Washington told them to shove it. The Americans kept holding out for what was coming, and when they finally hit, they hit hard. 15,000 British troops approached the American position.
All I'm saying is there were some laws requiring certain slaves to be set free, and even if but you're saying, but no. All I'm saying is there were some laws, a law. Stop. And by the way, chat, this is really important. A lot of people like to write things out or like to say things in a certain way that will frame their argument better. No, not some laws. A law requiring certain. In a single colony in Pennsylvania, in a single state in Pennsylvania, to be set free, even if it didn't go far enough, some of the founding fathers still ignored it, whichever were the ones in Pennsylvania. It wasn't the idea that they didn't know what they were doing was wrong. They were just rich and powerful enough to do it anyway. And again, I feel like you are mixing up some concept of morality at the time versus economics at the time. Whereas I think a lot of those, I would argue that those founding fathers thought of it as an economics issue and not as a moral issue. How do you know there weren't more laws? That's a great question. Pennsylvania's Act for the Gradual Abolition of Slavery was the first abolition legislation in the Americas. So I'm assuming by first that it's the first one. So, do I think it's true that there were people? Do I think that people were questioning the morality of slavery at the time? Absolutely. Were people? Was it becoming something that was being discussed and even legislated upon? Yeah, absolutely. Do I think it was some? I guess again, the point that I would counter to you is, if you were born to a rich family in Virginia, a rich landowning family in Virginia, you probably would have slaves. And you probably would be against this. Because that was the cultural norm at the time. I'm not white. Well, I mean, I'm saying assuming you're born white, right? And obviously around this time is when these debates were happening and when this was starting to change. Sure, it's a hypothetical, and again, it's like, I don't think it's a. Am I making sense here? I I think it could be very easy to be like, oh my God, Thomas Jefferson had slaves. What a bad guy. It's more complicated than that. Hey, happy 4th of July. Clicking onto your stream after not having watched in a while, then hearing about tax evasion and abolition is insane. Happy 4th of July, chat. Yeah, and the other thing, and by the way, Mr. Fantastic, I also I'm gonna also mess something up for you. In the context of American slavery was typically whites owning slaves in American slavery. Do not ever confuse yourself that slavery is a uniquely white thing. Don't ever confuse that. Let me tell you guys something. Every single race has enslaved people. Every single race does a lot of slave trading. There's crazy amount. Listen, if you think the Atlantic slave trade was crazy, wait till you read about the Arabic or the fucking Saudi Arabian slave trade. Oh my goodness. TJ had a rep for being, and now that I can believe. Now, if we want to look at a very specific founding father and be like, even in the context of slave ownery at the time, were they particularly bad people? I think that's fair. It's not complicated. Any person who has owned a slave at any time, any place is an evil person. See, the problem is by saying I disagree with that is kind of like I'm going to get fucking clipped. That you realize why that's like kind of so any person at any time in history that had us like what but let me take this further, Orc Ambassador. What you're basically saying is any person at any time in history that didn't have the sensibilities and morals and values of the 21st century as we have now developed, they were evil. That's I could write it that way. I could basically extrapolate your argument to that. That anyone that doesn't have the values and ethics of the 21st century at any time in history is evil. Yes, Blau, yes. Oh my God. From my point of view, the Jedi are evil. Yes, it's okay to say that. My counterpoint is that's not how I view things historically. I think that is a bad way to view things historically. By the way, phenomenal example, working class hero. I would argue, even given the standards at the time, Christopher Columbus was particularly evil. Just because it was a different time doesn't make it less evil. By today's standards, it's evil. By standards back then, it wasn't evil. That's why I don't use the word evil. I don't use the word evil. When describing things historically, I don't apply 21st century morality to morality in the 12th century or the 4th century. Like, it's such a weird thing because then you're basically saying, okay, humans that were warring humans that killed and raped each other during like 1200 BC were evil. It's like, okay, so are animals that kill each other and eat are like cannibalistic animals, are those evil? Do I now start applying human traits of morality to animals too? Like, we get into a weird aspect. Like, that's what I'm saying. I don't really know if I want to be ascribing You should. I don't know if I should. Yeah, you guys are all. By the way, so FW Block. I have a question. Do you think all men in Saudi Arabia are evil? Ooh, we're gonna get into because in a sense no, you don't, but they kind of women in Saudi Arabia are by some definition enslaved. So, can I ask how? Women in Saudi Arabia cannot leave the country without permission from their guardian. And their guardian is either their father or their husband when their father passes that right to the husband. So they can't. So you realize now we're going to get into some weird. I do think chattel slavery is different. Don't get me wrong. They might have. Did they change this, Adam? Okay, how about this? In a Muslim. When did they change this? Was this recently? How about this? In a Muslim country where women are subservient to the men, do you consider that a form of slavery? Do you consider that evil? Oh, sorry. It was changed in 2019. Sorry. Let me rephrase that. So FW Block. Oh, we can use modern day morals so all men in Saudi Arabia prior to 2019 were evil, according to your view of the world. So you are now saying that all guys in Saudi Arabia were fundamentally evil prior to 2019. And you completely ignore cultural context. Now do you understand why this concept of if you ever owned slaves at any point in human history, you were just evil? Because again, I could ascribe that to other things. I could be like, oh, if you were ever sexist, you were evil. I'm pretty sure everyone was like, bro. I don't think Alexander the Great was woke. He might have been a little gay, actually, but you know what I'm saying, though? I think if there was a law saying they can't do it and they did it anyway, then yes, they're evil. So, Mr. Fantastic, the other thing I'm learning from your comments is you're very much around whether or not someone does like skirts around a law or not. So now it feels like your argument's like, well, if you were a founding father, but you were down in Virginia and you didn't skirt around a Pennsylvania abolition law, you weren't evil. But if you tried to skirt around the Pennsylvania abolition law, you were evil. Like the law is what made it evil or not. That's a whole other fucking crazy argument. I love you, Blau, but please don't compare owning slaves to being sexist. Well, what's really funny about that is the concept of sexism as we know now is one of like, making, catcalling women or women being uncomfortable at the workplace. Whereas the concept of sexism in the 14th century was being enslaved and was a form of sexual slavery. And the concept of sexism in centuries, millennia before was basically sexual slavery. So don't go to me and say owning slaves, don't compare that to sexism. The concept of sexism in human history is one of basically slavery. You were talking about someone being sexist today. No. I even used the example of, oh, well, if Alexander the Great was sexist, therefore he's evil. And I'm saying even the concept of sexism changes depending on which century you're looking at. Okay? What I would, the long story short of this, if I was to preach to you guys anything, try to view things with a more, I don't know. Long story short, don't judge history from a 21st century perspective. Their level of nuance seems like this level of nuance. I think this level of nuance is actually very practical. I think it's really important to have this level of nuance. I also noticed whoever it was, FW Blau. I haven't seen where are the comments now? When a Fort Collins stream, that'd be sick. I'm not saying it wasn't immoral before, but when you do it even after, then you lose some of the plausibility, deniability that it was immoral. And my counterpoint is that the overwhelming consensus of the colonies, or I guess now at this point, the 13 original states, is that it wasn't immoral. You had one piece of legislation that was pretty conciliatory, one piece of very conciliatory legislation in probably the most progressive state, Pennsylvania, that probably had the least sort of cultural and economic ties to slavery at the time. And so I'm saying it's not like that is the one turning point. So you can't say before and after this one piece of legislation. Do I think discussions of the immorality of slavery were becoming more prevalent, more common? Absolutely. Do I think it was overwhelmingly considered immoral at the time? No. Thank you so much. Continuing with our video.
And the two sides fired on each other in massive rows. But what the Americans didn't realize was they were only fighting a decoy. The main British force was going around to flank the Americans from behind, and when they arrived, they inflicted heavy casualties. The Americans panicked and retreated back to Brooklyn Heights, where they then found themselves trapped between the British Army and the river. It looked as though the war was already lost, but luckily, instead of attacking, the British decided to dig in for a siege, and then a thick fog set in, allowing Washington's army to escape across the river unimpeded. The British continued to chase and engage the Americans at Manhattan, and the Americans suffered defeat after defeat after defeat. It was a disaster. Washington's leadership was called into question, as thousands of American POWs were left to rot as traitors. Washington's army fled through New Jersey all the way down to Pennsylvania. Rarely had an army been so badly beaten, yet survived the fight another day.
Sorry for responding late. I'm watching the game too. Wait, who's winning? How's Canada doing? Hold on. Halftime still 0-0. Chat, listen, I'm saying this. I just the best way is like a general like good practices. I don't go and I don't view people historically. I try not to first ask, are they evil or not evil? Are they good or bad? Based off of my understanding of social mores and values at the time, right? And for what it's worth, I still think even in a more kind of, I guess you could argue, kind of gray way of looking at things, it doesn't mean that like certain people are exempt then of criticism, right? Like I could still probably look at the cult. I could look at the time of Hernan Cortez and probably be like, this guy was pretty fucking evil. You could probably still look at Hernan Cortez, man. He's pretty fun, even in the context of the time, right? Right. Fun fact, Saudi Arabia didn't abolish slavery until 1962. Yeah. So weirdly, by the way, weirdly enough, you are now saying anyone who was in Saudi Arabia before 1962 was evil because they didn't abolish slavery by then. Fun fact, actually, I think the Americas are, the United States was actually one of the first countries to abolish slavery. Oh, everyone who owned slaves was evil. Oh, okay. So anyone who had, right. Do you consider women that are fully subservient and whose ability to leave a country is a form of slavery? If not chattel slavery, but is that a form of slavery? Would you agree with that? Wasn't the US one of the first countries to, US was not one of the first? Let's check. You know what? Let's fact check me on this. Who was the first? Oh, Mexico was kind of goated. Mexico in 1829. France in okay, we're not counting this one. We're not counting France. So Denmark was probably the first to ban the importation. (1833) was the United Kingdom. I would argue Mexico was probably, I think Mexico is first. Would we agree? In 1829. That one doesn't. The France banning it in 13, that's not the same thing. Haiti, 18. Oh, Haiti, 8 and 18. Okay. The first country to permanently, unconditionally abolish slavery in the modern era was Haiti in 1804. Following the successful Haitian Revolution, history's only fully successful slave revolt, the nation established its independence and banned human bondage completely. Dude, Haiti, 1804. And the thing is, you kind of have to look at it in the modern era because there's like other forms of slavery that were like, yo, Haiti. I just don't understand the point of defending slavery as not. Stop. I'm not saying slavery is not evil. When did condensed can of meat? I never said that. You're putting words into my mouth. What I have said this entire time, do not judge history from a 21st century moral compass. That's all I've said. Chat, lurkers, has that been my consistent argument this whole time? Is to not take 21st century values and morality and judge historical things based off the 21st century's views of it. Does that mean that you can't judge things? No, you can. You can actually judge them according to what was going on at the time. Blau, you're arguing with a condensed can of meat on the 4th of July? Yeah, good point. At the time, it wasn't evil for Thomas Jefferson to own slaves. That's what you're saying. Ooh, I don't know. I don't really like to use the word evil. I don't know. But I'm not like, oh, it was good. Probably like now, do I think Thomas Jefferson, from my understanding of his history, do I think Thomas Jefferson did the, and we're not going to use the word evil. I'll just use simple words like good and bad. Do I think he was a particularly bad person in terms of his treatment of slaves? Yes. That even by the standards of the time, he was pretty bad. Yes. Do I think the concept of owning slaves at the time was do I think it was a good thing? No. Do I think it was like a bad thing? I mean, my 21st century self would say yes, but as evaluating it historically, no, it was probably probably with among the social mores of being okay. That emo punk writes it pretty well. At the time, public opinion was that it was normal. So at the time, it was not evil. So you would own slaves. Let me put it to you this way: if I was, it's like one of those where it's like if I was born, or if I mean it's like one of those things where it's like, chat. If you guys were born to a rich landowning family in Virginia and you're white, you probably would have owned slaves. I got an ad. So if you were, I swear to God, every time I make a point, they always get a fucking ad. Guys, I'm going to get Dexertoed for this. I want you guys to know it was a conversation just like this. And this is how I got fucking clipped as the incest streamer, was because we were actually, by the way, and can I just pause and say, you guys are, to all the chatters, even the ones I'm debating with, you guys have been awesome. I actually do want to pause and say this has been like a real, like, and I hope even for the lurkers and other people, this has been a cool conversation for people to like consider, like, damn, yeah, I never thought of that. Or I hope people are like maybe having their views challenged, thinking about things differently, which, by the way, is an American tradition. And it's one of the best things about this country. Okay, ignoring our current administration, sure, and ignoring a lot of fucked up shit that America's done. One of the best things we do is this, which is that we can discuss these things, yada, yada. Anyways. I'm not here to clip you or anything, so I don't know why you're acting. Whoa, no, I'm just memeing about it. What did I say? What was my response? Oh, you asked, do I think that Thomas Jefferson was evil for owning slaves? No, I don't. I think you could say he was evil for his particularly cruel treatment of slaves, because I think even given the moral context at the time, I think the manner in which he owned slaves and what he did to some of them was particularly bad. But as a general concept at the time, it was not considered. It was considered sort of normal for wealthy landowning people to own slaves, and that was just sort of that was the historical context we were dealing with. Someone clip that. No, don't clip that. Working class hero. Thanks for the. Hey, you know what? Mr. Montana Buffu, coming from a Canadian, you should be happy you have Trump and not Harris. Hey, you know what? I disagree, but you're welcome to type that in my chat. That's fine. Looking good, Blau. Yo, thanks, Jesse. Say, chat. The long. And by the way, I know that this is a. Okay, the moral context at the time. Ooh, this is good. Vermont became the first territory to ban slavery. By 1804, every single state north of Maryland had passed laws to either immediately or gradually abolish slavery. Jefferson had around 200 slaves when he left the White House in 1809. it's almost like, well, I know, but I know you're saying like, oh, all after 1776 though. And you're like making that about the meme. Guys, I'm not saying that it wasn't becoming a issue in the United States and it wasn't being talked about. Oh my God. It's almost like following the freedom of our country. One of the biggest challenges that the United States faces for the next, like 80 years is this challenge of are we a slave nation or not? And it's almost like this challenge almost comes to a head in probably one of the most significant and important conflicts in American history. Oh my God, I fucking know that. I'm just telling you, at the time, we're talking late 1700s, early 18th century, the majority still would have been on Jefferson's side. And notably, Jefferson is in Virginia. You are saying every single state north of Maryland. It's almost like two parts of our country start to become very divided on this issue. Holy shit. You're not Hassan, little bro? Yeah, because I can actually name books. I'm kidding. Came here from the clip. I can't believe this guy loves slavery and personally owned slaves. Oh, God. Oh, God. If in 50 years the consensus became that watching Twitch is evil, from their perspective, it is and always was evil. That does not make everyone in this chat evil for participating if something that isn't understood is evil. Yeah. Honestly, watching Twitch is evil, though. So Jefferson sort of chose the wrong side then, I guess. I guess that you guys are way too much painting things as someone is evil or not evil. Someone is on the right side or someone is on the wrong side. And I'm telling you two things. Number one, it's not black and white. It's not you can't just, the entirety of human history is not ever going to be as simple as you are making it out to be. That's point number one. Point number two, do not take 21st century morality and then judge the rest of the world based on our 21st century understanding of morality. Thank you. Bro is defending slave ownership. What are we doing? Oh my God. I'm not, listen, do I think that it's bad? Yes. You're asking me what I think it's bad. This is the problem. Do I think that slavery is bad? Yes. Do I go and judge the fucking Egyptians for their slave practices? Do I judge the Romans for their slave No, I'm trying to understand things from a historical context. I don't go back in time and nitpick and ask, was Alexander the Great using the proper pronouns when he invaded Persia? No, I don't fucking ask that. That's what I'm saying. But did he? Did he use the proper pronouns? But also, didn't you just say Jefferson treated his slaves badly even for the time? You understand it yourself. Yeah, I think that is me doing, that's some degree of projection, right? Like if I want to start judging people's behaviors at the time, we could be like, oh, given the nature of warfare and conflict, this was a particularly ruthless conqueror. This was a particularly bloodthirsty campaign, right? I don't know why you're digging this hole, man. I don't think I'm digging a hole. Actually, fun fact, condensed can of me. I feel pretty fine in my position on this. Chat, are we canceling Blau yet? Did I just come in time? As a lurker, it feels like some of chat's take is just trying to urge you to say what they want to hear without actually listening to what you have been clearly saying. Yeah, I do think this is one of those where it's like, I feel like people are hearing me, but not listening. I am saying I don't judge historical figures and people in history using a 21st century framework of morality and I don't use this is the other thing. Who was this? Some other random guy came in here and was like, this guy, bro, is defending slave ownership. What? You're now confusing my morals and my values, which I am not using to evaluate things at the time. I'm trying to understand in a historical context what was going on, what was okay, what wasn't okay, why it was or wasn't okay. I can tell you guys, if you guys want to ask, Blau, how do you feel about slave ownership? I think it's fucking terrible. If you gave me it, how about this? If you gave me a button that I could click that button and Thomas Jefferson didn't own slaves, sure, I'd click that button. I don't have that magical button. Oh my God. Oh my God. I would click the magical button for us to all hold hands and sing Kumbaya. My political values are that we should all hold hands and sing Kumbaya. I've always believed that. What if I'd also push the button to make him gay and really horny, okay? But I don't have that button, chat. I don't have computer to do that, okay? Damn, that emo punk is saying this better than I'm saying it. Blau's not defending slavery. He's defending the fact that widespread opinions can change over time. Just because things are seen a way now doesn't mean they always were. Holy shit. Okay. But there were people in 1700s who were against slavery. They would judge slave owners as evil in their time too. And my question to you then, Indestructible Home Digger, is let's say that you're born white in the 13 original colonies. Percentage-wise, which one are you more likely to be? Actually, do you know? I'll tell you which one you're most likely to be, because there's three options. You're either going to be an abolitionist, a slave owner, or some random fucking guy who doesn't care about the concept of slavery. Or if you're born not white, you're born a slave. And the reality is, you're probably that third one. You're probably some random ass guy who doesn't fucking care. And you don't think it's bad because you don't think about it. Oh, now educated or not? Okay, now you're educated. And now guess what? Okay, now you're educated and wealthy. Guess which one? You're probably a slave owner. I don't know. Wait, I don't know what this is saying. Trade, what? Then I'd likely be against slavery. Why would you be against slavery? Why would you why are you, is it because do you have census and poll data that shows that, like, why would you? Education would help me see how it was wrong. Oh, Oh, education would help you see why it was wrong. Oh. And chat, by the way, if I'm Jewish. Let's pretend I'm not Jewish. If I was born in 1920s Germany, I was born in 1920s Germany, I wouldn't fall victim to Goebbels' propaganda and the Nazi propaganda. I would be educated and I would see how it's wrong. And I would not, I'd be against the Nazis because I'd see how it's wrong. I would just see how it's wrong. Do you think at least a part of it is that we grew up with these people as heroes? So there's at least actually, and Mr. Fantastic, I will give you this. To be fair to you, and you've been doing a great job discussing this, and you're the one who actually sparked this whole debate. So this is great. I do want to say, in a lot of the United States and in a lot of American history, I think that the historical lens goes too far the other way. They paint the founding fathers without the some of these questions of nebulous morals in the backdrop, or with the backdrop of slavery behind them, and they do paint them as these heroes. So I actually do agree with this. Oftentimes the education is this way. I was also in high school. I was in the International Baccalaureate program. I read fucking History as a Weapon by Howard Zinn. I had the full on other perspective of like low key, very critical theory of the United States Empire. So speak on it, YouTube boy. But like, there were people in Germany who were against Nazi in Germany too. I've already commented this the last time that it was brought up. Yeah, but here's the thing. Indestructible, you are saying without a certainty of a doubt that you would be on the correct side of history because you would be educated. And you are placing yourself in the 1700s and saying that you're going to be an abolitionist because you'll be educated, when the majority of educated people at the time were not abolitionists. You are projecting your own sensibilities on the time, thinking that you will just be better than the average person. And I'm telling you that that's kind of silly. I said likely, and there were abolitionists at the time, shows I could be one. Let me tell you, I'll tell you, likely you would not be an abolitionist. If we're flipping a coin of probability, you are likely not an abolitionist at the time. You might be. I'm not saying you won't be. There were abolitionists at the time. You might be. You likely aren't. Fair enough. Oh my God, thank you so much. Oh my God. Yeah, religion was a huge part of this as well. Whoa, chatters, don't argue with each other. What's funny is the gay pride people have slaves and we say it's different kind of, that's a different kind of bondage, okay? Now that's a different kind of bondage, chat. That's different kind of bondage, okay? Listen, there's I want you guys to know where I stand, my morals. Human chattel bondage, bad. This bondage, good. Human slavery bondage, bad. This bondage, good. Those are my morals. I'm so confused on what type of stream I thought I was going to be clicking into, but it was not this. Welcome to the Blau stream, everyone. Welcome to the Blau stream. We're talking about, By the way, can I just say, it's a 4th of July stream, and listen, instead of just ooh rah rah drinking fucking beers and celebrate the United States, we're having a deep conversation into the backdrop of slavery in the United States. Like, what a great conversation. This is awesome. Good job, chat. Proud of you guys. All right, let's go to part 2 of the American Revolution.
Howard completely abandoned the plan and gone for all out personal glory by capturing the American capital of Philadelphia. He defeated Washington and his army.
Why is this too
Keep
fast?
watching until the end of the video to learn how you can get 20% off the annual premium subscription.
Okay.
Washington's butt was sufficiently kicked. Winter was here. His troops.
Where does slavery rank on your USA tier list? Of bad things the US has done, worse than the Vietnam War. Oh, actually, yeah, worse than probably number 1. That and the Trail of Tears, probably. Those are top on the bad things the USA has done list. So.
Morale was low, some just up and left. Washington needed to do something, anything to restore faith in the revolution. The British had spread throughout New Jersey and settled in for a winter of drinking cider and partying hard. Nobody expected an attack.
And I'm not, by the way, I'll just be honest with you. I do want you guys to know there's a lot of streamers, and I'm not trying to like shit talk other streamers. I want you guys to know there's a lot of streamers that I don't think know anything about any of this fucking shit. I'm not trying to like call them out, but and this is the example of the random guy during the 17th century who didn't even know shit about slavery. I want you guys to know most streamers don't fucking know any of this. Trail of Tears, is that a new friend slop game? Trail of Tears, is it multiplayer? Can I play it with my friends? And Trail of Tears, is that a Pokemon move? I'm sorry, I need to stop doing that. I need to stop doing that.
Back in the winter, so Washington started making plans.
I don't think I know that much. I know enough to know I'm a fucking idiot. I know enough that when you guys mention stuff in chat, I have to go and look it up, right?
For an attack in the winter. The British had hired a large force of Hessian mercenaries from the German states of Hesse-Kassel and Hesse-Hanau to fight the rebels. It was these mercenaries that were stationed across the Delaware River.
Bro, I'm going to say it, ever since the Hessian mercenaries, like the United States, we've always had beef with Germany. Dude, we've always not fucked with Germany. France, we've always fucked with France. Germany, always not fucked with you. The Red Scare, is that a new horror game?
Washington and his army. And there were more Hessian reinforcements incoming, but they made an unscheduled stop because their commander got thirsty. No, not that kind of thirsty. That kind of thirsty. It was Christmas Eve with a blizzard outside when Washington heard the Hessian defenses were down, and he decided to attack. He made a perilous crossing of the icy Delaware River with 2,400 men and marched 9 miles to Trenton, where he caught the Hessian forces completely off guard. After a short but fierce battle, the Hessians surrendered in droves. It was a much-needed victory that sent a clear message, not only to the British, but to Americans across the...
Damn, what a sick fucking painting. I could paint myself into this one in Mecha Chameleon.
colonies. The war was far from lost. General Cornwallis led the British forces south to counterattack.
Fuck you, Cornwallis.
But in a series of battles, Washington's defensive positioning and flanking maneuvers defeated the British 3 times in 10 days, and the British decided to abandon southern New Jersey for the rest of the winter. Washington finally set up a winter camp in Morristown, but for the Americans, there was much less partying than the British. Elsewhere, the British had taken Newport, Rhode Island, because it was a good naval base. In the south, they failed to take Charleston, South Carolina, which left British loyalists unsupported and vulnerable to more harassment and even mass expulsion. Congress sent Benjamin Franklin to France on a mission to convince them to join the war, and while the French generally loved any opportunity to hoodwink the Brits, they didn't want to join unless it was a sure win. So for now, Franklin spent his days chilling out and chasing tail. The British Parliament couldn't...
Yo, Benjamin Franklin was a dog, by the way. Benjamin Franklin was a dog. Oh, is the audio video low? Sorry, let me crank it. That's my bad. Arsenal, thanks for the 5 gifted subs. Appreciate that a lot.
Believe the war wasn't over yet, and the pressure was on to end it. So the British came up with a plan. General Burgoyne in Montreal and General William Howe in New York would advance through the Hudson Valley and meet in the middle, splitting the colonies in two, and thus screwing over the American communication lines. Burgoyne began his movement south, and after taking Fort Ticonderoga quite easily, he then came across heavy American resistance. So he sent Howard Dingle-Dongle asking if he'd be showing up anytime soon. Meanwhile, Howard completely abandoned the plan and gone for all-out personal glory by capturing the American capital, Philadelphia. He defeated Washington and his army at Brandywine Creek.
Can I just pause to say, what the fuck are the core boys doing? What are the core boys doing? Bro, on their fucking particle for their... Can I just... Listen, I'm going to expose the DMs of the core particle, okay? The host of Core 4. My phone has been blowing up with these. The host of Core 4th sent a text black. There's like 1K people pending. Message so-and-so on IG or so-and-so on Twitter. I have a life and I've been up for 2 days straight. I'll accept everyone once and for all when I'm up. Thanks. Tomorrow will be fucking crazy. Then the text of Core 4th of July sent a text blast. Just woke up. Message so-and-so on IG if you need to get approved or you need a +1 approved. List closes at 1 p.m. Then another one. The hosts of Core 4th sent a text blast. The party's canceled. 3 people don't want to split the cost anymore. GG's. Sorry, everyone. What the fuck are you? What is going on with? Just host a fucking party, guys. Figure out the Venmo splits later. Jesus Christ. What? And stop saying the fucking parties. Bro, they're broke. I exposed that Core is broke. Splitting a fucking... I have gotten like 6 fucking particle messages for this shit. Stop spamming my phone with the text blast, okay? Jesus.
By using the old hit him with a decoy and flank him from behind tactic, and Philadelphia was now in British hands, forcing Congress to escape to York. But Burgoyne was left on his own to face the ever-increasing American force in Saratoga. American General Horatio Gates teamed up with our old friend Benedict Arnold to deal one final blow to
Benedict
Burgoyne's army.
Arnold.
Arnold wanted to take the fight to the British, but Gates wanted to wait for the British to come to them. After a heated debate, Gates, the senior officer, told Arnold to go to his room, but Arnold defied his orders, and at the Battle of Bemis Heights, he charged at the British and obliterated them. Great job, Horatio. By the way, what happened to that other guy who was in Saratoga? Who? Benedict Arnold. Never heard of him. Ouch. Hey, George, didn't I do a great job? Taking Philadelphia and all?
Wait, so is the real history of Benedict Arnold that he was actually kind of like doing a good job as a military commander, but then just wasn't getting recognized and then pissed off? That's still kind of bad, not gonna lie.
Didn't I? You're fired. Both Burgoyne and Howe returned to Great Britain, leaving British General Henry Clinton to take charge of the war. And the war was about to take a nasty turn, because with the victory at Saratoga, the French were finally ready to join the Americans. All right, Benny, we're in. Hey, isn't this kind of funny? You know, because you're a republic trying to overthrow an absolute monarchy, and I'm an absolute monarchy helping you? Like, could you imagine if your revolution inspired my people to revolt against me, and then they imprisoned me in all...
This is true that the American Revolution is very much a backdrop for the French Revolution.
My family, and they chopped all of our heads off? Could you imagine? That's called foreshadowing. For now in America, winter was here once again, which meant yet more disease, more starvation, and even a little mutiny. After losing Philadelphia, Washington's job was again on the line. But suddenly, a Prussian guy with a very fancy name, hired by Benjamin Franklin, showed up out of nowhere and said, hey. But suddenly, a Prussian guy with a very fancy
Friedrich Wilhelm August Heinrich Ferdinand Steuben.
name, hired by Benjamin Franklin, showed up out of nowhere and said, hey, I'm here to give your men a European military training. And train them he did. They learned how to shoot accurately, how to march in formation, where to poop and where not to, and strict punishments were handed out to any who didn't comply. Washington's army came out of the winter in 1778 a new and improved force, ready to take Philadelphia back from the British. In the end, though, they didn't have to. With the French entry into the war, the British ordered General Clinton to evacuate Philadelphia and consolidate all...
Okay, crazy though, like chat, and I'm not a military commander, but like, correct me if I'm wrong. Could you not, and I know that a lot of these tactics were used by the revolutionary forces. Could I not just completely run forms of like harassment and guerrilla warfare campaign against the British? Like, I know that there was like traditional battle lines and how they fought. Could you not have just run like almost strictly a harassment campaign? Because I'm pretty sure... Yes, I know we won some major battles, we lost some, but I'm pretty sure we won the war strictly from the, or not strictly, but mostly from the fact that we kind of just fought with guerrilla tactics. Like, I don't know, man. Whenever I see like the fucking like armies lined up and shit, I'm like, oh my God. Like, I just feel like it's so easy to just fuck with them, you know? I don't know. I don't know enough about military strategy.
Of the British forces in New York. So Washington sent Benedict Arnold to reoccupy and secure the city as he pursued the British through New Jersey on land, eventually finding a good opportunity to attack at Monmouth Courthouse. The battle took place on a sweltering hot summer's day, and as many soldiers died from heat stroke as they did from battle. In the end, after some incompetent/borderline treason from Washington's second in command, it was a draw. And in this war, a draw is kind of a victory for the
Morocco
Americans.
won.
Next up, let's talk about this guy. This is John Paul Jones. John Paul Jones is handsome, Scottish.
Oh my God, John Paul Jones. I'm pretty sure John Paul Jones is the one who hijacks a ship and then goes and sails it over to England and just starts fucking with their ships and like shooting cannons at their like. Yeah, he's a fucking legend. I think he's basically a pirate.
Absolutely insane. When the war first broke out, everyone was like, how did the colonies expect to stand up to the might of the British Navy with their meager fleet of converted merchantmen? Yep, try telling that to John Paul Jones. This guy sailed to the British Isles, somehow captured a British ship off the coast of Ireland, and brought it back to France. Then he returned, attacking more ships, raiding towns, and evading capture the entire time.
John Paul Jones was basically a pirate.
These are basically pirate tactics.
Yeah.
But hey, if it works, it works. In one incident, he captured a British ship and returned to a Dutch port without an official ensign because his was lost during the battle. That's a big no-no and can have you arrested as a pirate. The Dutch helped him out by quickly creating a design based on Benjamin Franklin's description of what the American flag should look like, and they entered it into their records as an official US flag. What they came up with looks pretty cool. The whole campaign probably played heavily on British morale and brought into question their ability to win the war. And fun fact, he was so cool that one of the towns he raided in 1778 gave him an official honorary pardon in 1999. Keep ripping in heaven, John Paul Jones.
Hell
You're
yeah.
an angel now. What the Continental Navy was lacking in resources, though, the French entry into the war made up for. The French began with naval skirmishes in the English Channel, and they sent a large fleet to America, although it sustained a lot of damage in a storm off Rhode Island. The Americans were hoping for a bigger commitment from the French, so John Adams went to France to help Benjamin Franklin continue negotiations. Oh good, you're finally here. Check this out. Hey ladies, I'd like to fly you like a kite, 'cause you're electrifying. Isn't this great? Is this what you've been doing? Yeah, why? We were sent here on a diplomatic mission to secure military support from France, not to philander with the locals. Wait, no, ladies, come back. Worst wingman ever. But the Americans would get some more help. The Dutch provided aid, although they never formed an official alliance. More significantly, though, the Spanish, who had already been providing aid, officially joined the war in June 1779. They would provide support in the Midwest and the Gulf Coast, campaigns that heavily impacted the Native American tribes in those areas. Both sides actually enlisted the help of Native American tribes throughout the war, sometimes even pitting those tribes against each other. In the summer of 1779, after a series of raids against the Americans by the Iroquois, Washington organized an expedition that burned down more than 40 villages, forcing the tribes to relocate to Canada for British protection. And another group that shouldn't go unmentioned were African Americans, both free and enslaved. They joined both sides of the war, hoping to gain their freedom. But afterwards, many were simply returned. They joined both sides of the war, hoping to gain
That's actually a great call out in this painting.
their freedom. But afterwards, many were simply returned to slavery, particularly those who had fought for the Americans. Despite owning slaves himself, Jefferson had written a condemnation of slavery in the Declaration of Independence, but out of fear of offending the southern colonies, this was removed from the final draft. For the same reason, the American Army stopped enlisting African American men in 1775, a policy that Washington, a slave owner himself, supported, but they were forced to reverse the policy after the British promised freedom to any slaves who joined them. In general, you stood a better chance of gaining freedom if you fought for the British. However, even those that left with the British after the war suffered mistreatment and discrimination in their new lives outside of America. Our good friend Benedict Arnold is now in charge of Philadelphia, having a good time, partying down with, and even marrying a member of the Philadelphia elite. The same elite that had partied down with the British when they controlled the city. And suddenly, the people of Philadelphia, including the state governor, started accusing Arnold of having pro-British sentiments. To keep the people happy, Washington wrote a letter rebuking Arnold, calling his conduct imprudent and improper, and that was too many ouchies for Benedict Arnold to handle. He asked Washington to put him in charge of the fort at West Point. Then he contacted the British, offering to hand the plans of the fort over to them and join their side. Our good friend Benedict Arnold is our good friend no more. Luckily, the treasonous plans were discovered on a captured British officer, but Arnold managed to escape before he was arrested. As a British brigadier general, he would go on to lead raids against American cities, most notably his raid of Richmond, Virginia in 1781. His betrayal shook George Washington, who had once again set up camp at Morristown. His leadership somehow held the Continental Army together through the harshest winter of the war. We're entering 1780, and Parliament was hopping mad that the war still wasn't over. The British debt was soaring, and despite taking parts of Massachusetts in late 1779, the North was in a stalemate, so the British decided to make a major shift in strategy to the south, an economically rich area with a higher level of support for the British, or so the British thought. A year earlier, they had captured the underdefended city of Savannah, Georgia.
I don't know if the South would have actually liked them.
Now, they laid siege to Charleston, South Carolina.
Happy 4th of
It fell
July,
within
a
months,
six-pack
with thousands of
enjoyer.
American troops surrendering to the British, a costly defeat. The British quickly moved to take control, and they sent stereotypical Hollywood villain with a British accent, Bannister the Butcher Tarleton, into the backcountry where he
Bannister
hunted down rebels
Tarleton.
and destroyed them with ruthless brutality. The British presence also inspired local loyalist militias in the backcountry to rise up against their persecutors. The British really seemed to be onto something with their new strategy, and the ball was very much in Washington's court. I'm gonna send my most loyal general, Nathaniel Greene, to the south to stop the British. Gonna have to overrule you there, George. We're sending hero of Saratoga and your biggest rival, Horatio Gates. Watch this, George. I'm gonna save the day again. Everybody will love me, and I'm gonna get your job. Here I go. And he got into one battle with Cornwallis, got annihilated, and ran away. Alrighty, let's go with your guy. Nathaniel Greene knew the British outnumbered his own forces and wouldn't be defeated with conventional tactics, so he had to think outside the box. He split his army into two, said, "Hey big boy, look at me," and then they went running in two different directions. Cornwallis sent Tarleton after Morgan, and he caught up with him at Cowpens, where Morgan proceeded to kick Tarleton's butt. Then the two led Cornwallis on a wild chase through North Carolina, his bigger and better equipped army much heavier and slower than Greene's quick and mobile troops. Greene led Cornwallis further and further from his supply line, then crossed the Dan River into Virginia, picked up some reinforcements, and turned back to face the now exhausted British. At the Battle of Guilford Courthouse, the two sides engaged in vicious close combat. Cornwallis, fearing loss, fired his big guns into the chaotic fighting, cutting down many of his own men. Greene retreated, giving Cornwallis the victory, but Cornwallis lost a quarter of his men in the fighting, so it felt much more like a British defeat. At this point, both sides desperately needed something to happen soon to end the fighting. The British were running out of money, while the Americans were again facing mutinies as the men went without pay or even basic living needs. Fortunately, the French were now showing up in greater numbers and were ready to fight.
Go,
After his encounter
France!
with Greene, Cornwallis decided the only way to win the South was to first prevent the Southern Continental Army from using Virginia as a supply base. So he abandoned the Carolinas, moving to Wilmington and on to Yorktown, a position the British believed would be easy to supply and support. On his march to Yorktown, he raided many farms, stealing horses and supplies from the locals, but also freeing thousands of slaves, many of whom joined him. The French saw Cornwallis's new position as an opportunity to land a decisive blow on the British. Washington wanted to attack Clinton in New York, but the French said it was a really dumb idea. And to be fair, it was. Instead, Washington sent out fake dispatches to make it look like they would attack Clinton, but secretly their combined force marched all the way down to Virginia. A large French fleet under the command of Comte de Grasse arrived and successfully cleared the British Navy out of the Chesapeake Bay. The combined land and naval forces then laid siege to Cornwallis's army in Yorktown. The American and French forces tightened in around the city, raining artillery down on Cornwallis, who desperately appealed to Clinton for aid, but Clinton was unusually chilled out about the whole thing. Cornwallis held out for nearly a month before he had no choice but to surrender. Over 7,000 British troops were captured, a crushing defeat, and with that, Parliament had reached the end of its rope. The war just wasn't worth it, and it needed to end now. The British still held New York, Charleston, and Savannah, but fighting between the two sides mostly ceased as peace negotiations opened up in Paris. The resulting treaty in 1783 saw Great Britain remove its troops from American soil, recognize U.S. independence, and cede territory up to the Mississippi River. In return, the Americans agreed to pay any debt still owed to Britain and gave fair treatment to any colonists who had remained loyal to the crown. The Spanish got Florida, while the French got an economic crisis that led to its own revolution a decade later. Washington retired to his home in Mount Vernon, wishing his men farewell by saying, "I most devoutly wish that your latter days may be as prosperous and happy as your former ones have been glorious and honorable." He hoped to live out the rest of his days in peace, but unfortunately for him, a number of people wanted him to be the first leader of the new country.
They wanted him to
And
be
by
king.
A number of people, I mean literally everyone. The first election campaign in American history was basically a grassroots effort to convince Washington to accept the office. He was sworn in on April 30th, 1789, and he himself established many of the standards and limitations of what the American leader should be. First of all, there was debate on what he should be called. Is he a king? Is he our glorious leader? In the end, they went for a word that at the time was pretty modest. President, like the president of your local bowling club or office bake sale committee. He set up a cabinet of expert advisors, knowing that no president could know everything, no matter how much of a stable genius they claimed to be. He proposed.
I actually do think that the establishment of a cabinet and that being like a critical part of being a president was really good from Washington. A notable thing about Washington was this fact that in also how he conducted his military work was he wouldn't just be like, oh, it's my way or the highway. He was very good about listening to his advisors.
major legislation to Congress and gave an annual State of the Union address to keep his own power in check. He stated that the U.S. should remain neutral in foreign conflicts, and in the end, he voluntarily gave up his power after just 2 terms. He could have made the presidency anything he wanted, but his careful and cautious actions helped set the precedent of an office that is powerful in its limitations, decisive through its diplomacy, and respected in its humility. And so the United States was born, and everything was perfect. It had no problems, not a single one. Certainly nothing that would, I don't know, cause such an extreme divide that it would lead to a civil war. Anyway, moving on. Quick quiz. Name the most American thing you can think of. Baseball? Bald Eagles? Calling the winner of an America-only sports tournament world champions?
Yes.
Or maybe math and science? Wait, math and science? That's right. If you didn't know, science is as American as combining chicken with waffles. And
True.
don't just take my word for it. Ask Thomas Jefferson. Of course, to do that you would need a time machine, and that would take some math and a lot of science. If you want to deeply understand math and science, say you want to calculate the age of the universe, take a crack at special relativity, or just train your critical thinking with some fun logic puzzles, then you've got to check out Brilliant. Brilliant guides you through a
Great
whole host
ad
of
read.
fascinating topics by breaking
that was
them
our
down and
second
getting
ad
to
read.
actively solve problems in an
Wait, no,
experience that is interactive, addictive.
The other one was on the first part of the video. Okay. All right, chat. Well, now we've learned about America. Any questions about America, chat? What do you guys think? What do you want to know? Gas station hot dogs. That's right. That's right. When does it end? We got another century left. Is it actually fun living there? Also, Clip Q is open, by the way. Is it actually fun? Listen, this is one of those things that is another kind of, I don't want to get like in trouble or be controversial here. Living in the United States is extremely good. You are blessed and privileged to live in the United States. I cannot tell you enough how in general living in the United States is but again, you're also asking me from Twitch chat, right? If you're white, in general, living in the United States is pretty blessed. In general, you're pretty blessed to be. Regardless, I know, controversial. Regardless of the color of skin, you're pretty blessed to live in the United States, regardless of the color of your skin. You probably have running water. You probably have a roof over your head. You probably have access to food to some degree, right? I think people that are high, like, it's not to say that it's not perfect, that there's not things we would work on, but I think the 4th of July is a good time to be super critical of the United States and reflect on what could be better, but it's also a really good time to be appreciative of like how great we have it, you know? And yes, you might die in a school shooting, but you won't die of being overheated because we also have AC. And I did learn that more people die in Europe from heat death than people die of shootings in the US, which is, so there's that. Like all things, it's typically more complicated, and I am wearing the Chud Light shirt, but yeah, I think, that's not a flex. That's kind of a flex. Having AC is kind of a flex. It's a pretty good. I think that's a pretty good flex. Listen, there's good and bad. I think on any time of reflection, it's good to think, how can we improve the things that are bad and how can we be appreciative of the things that are good? I think that's fair to say. Is it true? There are people on Skid Row and in deep poverty within infrastructure. That point, there's any number of horrible situations. It's like there is. It's not that the United States is a utopia. Far from it. And there's any number of pretty destitute and bad situations in the U.S. However, on the grand scheme of things, it's actually you're pretty fortunate to live here. And I think it is important to recognize and be aware of that privilege to just be in the United States. Like if you have to understand, chat, if you're a chatter in my chat and you have access to Twitch chat and the time to be here on Twitch chat and you live in the United States, I guarantee you are more privileged than 9/10 of the world. So count your blessings and be appreciative, and then, figure out ways to make the world better. Thank you so much.
I feel like hitting the back.
Hit
is
my
when
kidney.
when
I
you're
like
basing.
it when someone hits my kidney.
Your Uber's here.
What?
Your Uber, your.
Rock Hudson is a man who was gay, but he was a heartthrob. Women loved him. Everybody loved him, but he turns out he was gay. There's a documentary about it. He never came out. He died without coming out, Rock Hudson. And my grandmother had a huge crush on Rock Hudson. And so as a nod to me I ended up coming out as gay. She never knew I was gay. And she never knew Rock Hudson was gay.
But you're not a heartthrob to women.
You're not. Women?
Yes.
We know you're gay.
Cook his ass.
Wait, hold on. That had nothing to do with the fact.
That's correct. That is correct.
We
Hey,
know
you know
you're
what?
gay.
I'm not comparing myself. Are you trying to say you're a heartthrob?
I think you're a heartthrob.
You're a heartthrob to moms.
Why are you doing this?
Why is that a
you're already
problem?
gonna get hurt like
What,
that.
you got an issue
You're
with
a heart-
moms?
You're both heartthrobs.
You have an issue with moms? Moms are the backbone of the economy.
Wait, you know what?
Moms
Why
make
did I insult
85% of
moms?
household consumer purchase decisions.
Yeah, you would be down. You would love being
Wait,
heartthrob
why
to
did I
mom. You might
insult
be a
mothers?
heartthrob
Yeah.
to moms.
I can't believe
'Cause
I
they don't know you're
insulted
gay.
Yeah,
mothers.
no, if you noticed, I've been like
I
coming at
didn't
you.
mean to insult mothers.
I've been coming at you because
I am
you're a suit guy.
You're not a mother, but you're as close as we got
What?
to a mother.
Okay.
Sometimes the things that Austin says is just incredible. Just incredible.
I'm sorry.
I'm coming at you hard because
Yes.
you're a suit guy now. You're trying to steal my shit.
Yeah.
And it's annoying me, but also because I'm putting you through the ringer. I want to see
I can
how
handle
you
it.
can No, you have buckled under pressure.
Austin is the worst person to do politics. He buckles so hard. He has the worst gaffes.
Oh, I can handle it.
Like there's probably 8 attack ads that I could cut right now. Austin Show hates moms.
No, nobody loves moms more. Run this ad.
Yeah.
Nobody loves mothers more than I
It's too
do.
late because Austin Show is inconsistent on the position of moms. One day he's saying he loves mothers. The next day he's saying all moms should.
Did you know that Austin Show's icon is Rock Hudson? Austin Show is ashamed to be homosexual.
Yes.
No.
Yes. Austin Show
Austin
wants you
Show
to get back in
wants
the
you
closet.
to get back in the closet.
No, only if you want to. Just kidding. I wanted to share that
Holy
thing with
shit.
Does Austin Show want gay conversion therapy?
I'm trying to come up with more personal.
His boyfriend once was attemptedly converted.
I think what happened is once you're gay and
Yeah.
people know broadly, the switch is turned off.
Cat's out of the bag. Yeah.
I think you're a heartthrob.
To me.
Oh, to women?
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Oh.
not speaking for all
No,
women.
I actually think
Except
that,
for there, I think I've had one exception.
Oh, who is that?
Anthony
Anthony? Who's Anthony?
from the Fab Five.
Oh, duh.
Yeah,
Right.
you don't know him.
I have
Of course
no
I
idea
do.
who
Oh
that
my
is.
god.
By the way, that Rock Hudson story was actually very cute, and I'm sorry
Oh.
I
Yeah,
fucking
you
ruined
got-
it.
you got-
But I
No,
didn't
no,
really-
it's
I
fine.
had to for the sake
It's good.
of
It's part of the
comedy.
podcast. It's good. Sometimes we
I also don't like the silver tie. I don't like the silver tie.
do bits. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
Well,
I think it's kind of because he looks like
I-
a baby of Orlando Bloom and like James Franco.
I think also women.
General
knew I
Perry,
was
thanks for
gay
the sub.
because I had no success with women whatsoever. Like at the time, even when I thought I
Okay,
was.
now you're pushing back on the wasn't seen as a heartthrob by women.
Well, okay. So, like, I just like never. I don't think women find me attractive. Like
That's
even as a
not
even as a,
true.
like I think I'm only attractive to gay people, and I think this was even before.
I feel
he's right here because I same. I don't think women find me. I
Never-
think gay
don't
guys
think
find me
women
attractive.
attractive.
Yeah,
Like
That's-
I run into this issue too. The girls, I'm like, whatever, but to the gays, I'm a fucking dime piece.
even as a
Not
even as a,
true.
like I think I'm only attractive to gay people, and I think this was even before.
I feel the same way about myself.
God,
Yeah.
It's because
Honestly,
you would be
Will might have a similar thing with me.
perceived as a straight man. That's it.
What?
And when you are in that space as a cishet, that's how we live. That's how I live. And he'll yell at me and be like, "That's not true. Women throw themselves at you or whatever." But like
That's true.
every cishet man lives in that environment where we're like, I am not being perceived as an attractive man to women.
True.
Regardless
What a
of
sad reality.
that, but that's just it.
It
Like,
is
that's
true.
How I feel too.
Wait. Oh, so that's just life as a straight man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
actually,
I mean,
yeah.
like, I do notice that when I meet women, if they don't know I'm gay, I usually try to drop something.
I never
you
knew
know?
that
He
about
tries to
never
gay it
being
up.
attracted to gay men. Huh. Never thought about that one, Lamau.
Drop a quick F.
Yeah, right.
You start twisting.
Yeah,
Drop a quick F. Oh my god, bro! But every time I drop a, I'm kidding. I feel like that could backfire on you, Austin. That could backfire.
You start twisting those wrists.
like I'll compliment their outfit, but like really lean into the fact
I actually had a
that
situation recently where someone around me dropped an F slur and I didn't really know them that well. And I was like, what the fuck? And I like hit them with like and they went, oh, I'm gay. And I went,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I know. I do that too. Sometimes I'll just drop an F slur.
Do people give you the double take?
Sometimes gay people give me the double. take.
yeah, because you are kind of straight coded.
I know. I am, especially
in
in
this
this suit.
outfit right now, even with the trans flag pin. If you drop the F slur, that's at least 3 bodies. Like that's three hate crimes.
Oh,
3 body problem.
Yeah, 3 bodies.
Yeah.
3
okay.
hate crimes.
Nice reference, Will. That was great. That was great. He's bouncing off my booty cheeks. I love the way he rides. Anyways, chat. Happy 4th of July. All right. U.S. President tier list. All right. S tier. Not even a question. I can't put George Washington at S tier because he had slaves. So we'll put him A tier. Wait. Pause. Hold on. Now hold the fucking phone. F tier for all? You think Franklin Delano Roosevelt was an F tier president? You think that the guy that was in charge of the United States at the fine D tier? You think that the guy in charge of the United States when Imperial Japan and Nazi Germany were threatening to take over the world, the guy that basically pushed us into the war, that's not FDR. Wait, that is FDR, isn't it? Is that not FDR? Oh my God, do I have that wrong? Is that not FDR? Shit, is that not FDR? That is FDR. That's Nixon, Bush. I'm not going to know half of these. Clinton. That's Truman. Ignore me. Holy shit. I'm not going to look at chat. I'm not going to cheat. I can find FDR. That's Teddy. Hold on. I feel like he would have been, his would have been. Oh, his might still be black and white. Brother, where the fuck is FDR? I wish these were in order. That's Truman? He kind of looks like FDR, I'm not gonna lie. I can't see him. Am I blind? Is this not a photo I know? Hold on. Pull chat back up.
Bye chat, I have to get ready for work. Have a fun and safe 4th of July.
5th on the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that is FDR. You're right. It is colored. Thank you. Sorry. Truman kind of looked like FDR. That's my bad. Not F internment camps. Okay, so I'm going to do chat's ranking of them, right? Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Yeah. He might have started Social Security and the most progressive politics in the United States well ahead of their time and did comprehensive New Deal to get us out of the economic crisis, and also probably was involved in the United States effort to basically save the war from Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan. But he had internment camps and probably didn't like women. So F tier. I'm gonna do chat's rankings of the presidents. Okay, ready? Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves, but he didn't do it earlier. He could have done it earlier. And so he was actually still living in America when there were slaves. D tier. George Washington had slaves. F tier. Obama S tier. Drone strikes? What, like an Amazon drone? S tier. Oh my God. Bill Clinton, wife of Hillary, or husband of Hillary Clinton, I'm with her. S tier. Oh, wait, chat is leftist, not liberals. They hate Obama. Oh my God, Obama, drone strikes, F tier. Bill Clinton, part of the Clintons, F tier. We're going to learn about all. Okay, George, I'm doing chat's rankings. Also, which one is this? Is this Teddy Roosevelt, or is this is Teddy, right? This one's Teddy. I think our chat would hate Teddy Roosevelt. They'll put him at F tier. Epstein Island, F tier. Wait, but Teddy kind of has a cute name, A tier. This is Truman. Oh, Truman nuked the Japanese, F tier. George Bush Sr., F tier. George Bush Jr., F tier. Yeah, where's Pokimane on this list? Trump, ew, F tier. Ronald Reagan, F tier. John F. Kennedy. What would they hate John F. Kennedy? What would they hate JFK for, chat? Oh, Vietnam, yeah. F tier. White men, F tier. I want to get all the ones I know on the list, and then I'll okay, so then this is Nixon, F tier. Who are the ones I know, chat? I might not know their face. Is this Carter? F tier. Who are the ones I know? Who is this? Who is this, chat? I just might not recognize some of their pictures. Fuck, I know who this is. Who's this one? This one's Eisenhower. Wait, yeah, what one of these? Wait, no, this is Ford. This is Eisenhower. Eisenhower, Ford. Got it. Oh, other way around? Eisenhower, Ford. This is Lyndon B. Johnson? Okay. Is this... Who the fuck is this Andrew Jackson or Thomas Jefferson? Who is this? I need my old dogs all in one area. This is Jackson? Okay, Jackson, Washington. Is this TJ? This is TJ? This is Jefferson? Again, a lot of them I just don't. Okay, so who are ones that I should know? Because there's actually a bunch of presidents I actually just don't know what the fuck they did. Who is this painting guy? Wilson on the... This is Woodrow Wilson. I'm going to put them in their eras. Hold on. Kind of like in different eras. I'm going to put... Because Woodrow Wilson was close to FDR. Taft is the big boy with a stash. I need a big boy. This one. This is Taft. He's around that era. Let me do the eras first. So hold on. Let me try to get them kind of like in the appropriate era. We have like the OGs. Then there's like this era. Then there's this. Is this 20th century now? Adams is the painting. Yeah. Would this be Adams? Hold on. Let me get up a list somewhere here. Hold on. List of U.S. presidents. Presidential timeline. Okay, hold on. Put it up over here. Oh, James Madison. This is James Madison, right? This is Madison? Slick back. Okay. Which are the ones? Are there any? Can I skip a bunch of the ones that I don't really know too well? Also, where's Byron? Where's Joe Biden? Are there any? Oh, I feel like we should. Where's Grant? Shouldn't Grant be in here? Can I skip all of these ones that I don't know? I feel like I have the big dogs on here. Is this good? They said fuck Sleepy Joe. Can we rank the people from the... Yeah, we can do Hamilton musical next. All right, let's run this one. Let's run this one. Okay. My honest ranking. Okay. Let's put everyone down here. Just so I know where they all are. George Washington, A tier. He had slaves, guys. Come on. I can't put him at S tier. I already have to deal with the clips later, you know? FDR. S tier. Whoops, I grabbed the wrong guy. This was Washington. Sorry. That was fucking, I don't even know which one. It's hard. There's small pictures, chat. Okay. I'm evaluating them for their presidential stuff, not like their own morals, right? How was Thomas Jefferson as a president? He was pretty decent, right? He's probably like B tier. Put him at B tier president. Okay. Also, I'm assuming I'm ranking them based on how good they were for the American Empire. Okay. So rest of the world, sorry. This is just for how good they were leading the American Empire. Yo, actually, bring back oil paintings. I agree. Is it weird that George W. Bush I don't view as badly now? Like, it's crazy. Like, I feel like he's not as bad in hindsight. No, the Iraq War was pretty. It was pretty bad actually. But he has a great golf swing. Put him at D tier. Let's see. Abraham Lincoln, genuinely probably. Here's the question. Should I only have one? I'm gonna only have one at S tier. I'm gonna put Lincoln at A tier. I might not know ball on some of these too. So okay, let me look through some of these. Hold on. Bill Clinton. Clinton was actually a pretty good president, I believe. I want to say Clinton was actually pretty decent. I might put Clinton at B. Like, I think Clinton did a pretty good job. Am I crazy? I feel like most of the presidents should be around B, C, and D tier. These are like kind of like just, you know, we're holding F, A, and S tier pretty highly. Okay. George H. I think George H was better than George W. I don't think he was quite Clinton. Who else do we got? Carter. Do I have Jimmy Carter on here? Where's Carter? How was Jimmy Carter? Can I link a labeled one? Yes. Yes, please. Link a labeled one. That would help me so much. Holy fuck. Give me a link to a labeled one. This is so hard. Oh my God. US presidents with names? Oh. Where's the F tier? Wow, propaganda. They got rid of F tier. How do I add a row? Oh, add a row below. Whoops. Hold on. Okay, hold on. We'll do this as like that color. Green for good. And then we'll do B is like that color. C, yellow. D, yeah. D, yeah. F. Okay, let's get them all ranked. I feel like a lot of them are just going to be like D tier. Okay, George Washington, we said A tier. John Adams. John Adams was pretty decent, no? I feel like him and TJ were like, I want to say James Madison was pretty good. Am I crazy? James Madison was like low-key A tier. Andrew Jackson. Fuck, I don't know how a lot of these guys did. Oh my God, we have Sleepy Joe now. Okay, George Bush, listen. I'm not going to do all of them. I'm only going to do the ones I really know, okay? George Bush was D. Ronald Reagan. How was Ronald Reagan overall? Oh yeah, who did the Tale of Tears, by the way? Although was that a? Here's the other thing. Some of those a lot of the atrocities that were committed by early United States probably were less. That was Jackson. Did he order it though? Because I do think some of the atrocities that were committed were probably more removed from the presidency. Does that make sense? The Trail of Tears, was it entirely Jackson? Oh my God. I don't know Jackson. I don't know Jackson Ball. We'll put him in D tier. What a psycho. Dude, I'm putting Teddy in A tier, okay? I fuck with Teddy Roosevelt. On vibes alone. Roosevelt. See, that's a picture I recognize him in. Who is, I mean, I think Nixon genuinely deserved F tier. I'd probably put Trump in F. I'd put Trump, to be fair to Trump, it's sort of too early to fully tell. Here's a controversial take. Trump's first term was actually probably C tier. It was probably C or D. Honestly, no, genuinely. Trump's first term, what I would argue Trump's first term was not as damaging as George W. Bush or Nixon. The LGBT plus community would disagree. I don't think anything. Okay, pause. Guys, realistically, on a grand, and I'm not talking about current Trump. I am saying from 2016, what did Trump effectively do in terms of presidents relative to what would cause you to be a D or an F tier president? Yeah, he didn't really do much. I'd say the pandemic is a decent example. Here's what I'd say. If the pandemic was not COVID, but was a worse fucking disease that actually impacted things even worse, it would have been bad. ICE camps. I don't think they were doing crazy deportations during his first presidency. No, I'm saying his first term. His first term. You're telling me his first term was worse than what George Bush got us into in Iraq? Here's the problem. But you're promoted people putting bleach in their body to fight. I feel like you guys are giving me a bunch of random examples of things that the media hyped up about how bad he was in his first term. Where it's the real lived stuff that he did compared to George Bush. I don't know. His first term, it just wasn't that bad. I would say, Man, I kind of want to put Andrew Jackson at F tier because of the Trail of Tears. I would say Trump is I think because of the controversy alone, he's probably F tier. Trump cannot be worse than Bush. Yeah, I mean, like that. This is the other argument. This is like I actually think you could also argue, even if the decor. I like. Here's the question: is how are we viewing this? Are we viewing this on like the decorum or like what the media was saying, or are we viewing this on like what they actually did to the standing within? Like what they did to the standing of the United States. Yeah. Because I mean, I would just like the conflict with Iran is like nothing compared to what we got into with the Iraq War. I don't know. Blau, this is 2026 left wing. It's either coughing baby or hydrogen bomb. I mean, I know what I'm supposed to put for chat. I know what I'm supposed to put for chat. Listen, just so chat, listen, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to put him here just so I don't have to debate chat. I don't want to have to debate chat on this. I don't want to have to debate chat. I mean, like, I can, if you guys want me to play devil's advocate, I can also tell you that Trump's aggressive stance towards China has actually been a pretty positive thing from the United States, like to compete with the Chinese empire. And like, he has done, at least, even if not the correct decisions, at least has the correct idea that we need to be competitive against them. I think the way he's doing is fucking stupid, but at least he's trying to do something. D is fair, and I'm a huge Trump. Yeah, but the reality is, I just don't know if he's done anything as like critically damaging. Like, who are the Vietnam presidents? Because they're the ones that. Who was Vietnam? That was Nixon and when was Vietnam? Was that Johnson? Yeah, I would put Lyndon like that. Like this is a crazy. I think it's another thing that like we have to like think about. I have a question. Do we think the harms that Trump has done are worse than the harms that Bush is? Even if Bush is a more like it has more decorum as a president, do we think that Donald Trump has made more? Oof, yeah, it's tough. Do we think Trump is worse than like Trump's decisions for the United States strategically were worse than Bush's? I don't want to debate. Listen, this is one of the listen, chat. There's sometimes where you have to like know when to like not debate things, and the rule is if you're at a if your audience is a certain audience, you just say Donald Trump is F tier and you move on. That's I've learned that like you don't. There will be time to critically analyze the nuances of Trump's administrations in like 20 years from now. For now, he's bad, and I don't fuck with him. Abraham Lincoln. Now, is Abraham Lincoln S or A tier? You could argue that the state of the United States put him where he had to like. LBJ also pushed through Congress, signed the Voting Rights Act of 1965 and Civil Rights Acts of 1964, hallmark legislation that gave rights to millions of black Americans. That far outweighs any Vietnam stuff. Oh, Vietnam is pretty damaging to the United States. Yeah, I do think I originally think Lincoln's still A. I'm gonna put Lyndon B. Johnson at like D tier. How did JFK get us involved in the war in Vietnam? Because I think I liked Kennedy as a president. I actually would have probably put him at like B tier. Wait, who actually got us into Vietnam? Was it not JFK? Oh my God, wait. How does chat view Truman? How was Truman as a president? It started in the 50s. Eisenhower. How does chat view? Wait, is Truman? You guys just think Truman's F tier? Maybe I don't know ball enough. Give me the quick takes on Truman. Guys, he did bomb Japan. Let's learn real quick. Give me the what were good and bad things that Truman did. All right. Okay. AI overview. Good things. Desegregated the military. Oh, wait. The Marshall Plan was actually fucking sick. The Marshall Plan was awesome. Expanded civil rights, formed vital global alliances, dropped the atomic bombs. Okay, that's tricky. Fueled the Red Scare. Ooh, federal loyalty test for government employees. Ooh. Intervened in the Korean War. Wait, I would argue that this was good, even if it was. I guess this did start to set precedent for us fighting in wars that I've seen enough F tier. I don't think you can just say it's F tier. Look up Truman funding the French against Ho Chi Minh and how that got us into Vietnam. One thing that really sucks is that, correct me if I'm wrong, chat, didn't Ho Chi Minh actually go to the United States and ask for support at some point, and we denied him? I forgot the whole story. Like, Ho Chi Minh only... The story of Vietnam and the story of Ho Chi Minh is one that I believe was he didn't actually care for the communist rule. Yeah, he loved America, right? He actually, if anything, he didn't care for communists. He cared for his people. He wanted the Vietnamese people to be free, and he needed an ally that could fund them to be free. And the only one then that would do it was China. That was Truman who denied him? Fuck. That does piss me off. I'm going to put him at D tier. Because that does set up the sort of stakes of Vietnam. And I would argue Vietnam is probably... The Vietnam War is like the biggest blight on American history in the 20th century. Are you ranking them by the standards of their day or now? Because I feel like you are going by our standards for some of them and their standards for others. I think this one is okay too. It's why I also don't know. It's why I actually can't put Trump at F tier. I just can't. I don't think he has done it's one where it's like he might end up being an F tier in 10 years, but I don't know if I have enough time to say that he's like, whereas I would argue the biggest, like right now, the biggest issue, like the worst thing the United States did in the 21st century was the involvement in the Iraq War. And like that, like at the end of the day, that was just the worst that we did. Epstein files, Trump is F by that alone. Listen, basically all of our presidents are going to then go to the F because they're all going to be in the fucking Epstein files. I don't know if Trump will, yeah. Invading Venezuela, I don't know if the taking of Maduro from Venezuela was that bad. I don't know. Whereas, like, we can look back in hindsight and see it. So why not put all of them in F tier? Do you guys believe that the United States, you could even say in the 20th century, was positive for the world or negative for the world? Right? Because if you say negative, then you're like, okay, well, what were your alternatives? Would you rather have Nazi Germany, Imperial Japan, Soviet Russia? That's not to say that the United States is good or like all good, but that's why I tell people like kind of like think about like what are your alternatives? Artificial amateur rights. I think for now the Iraq War is the worst thing that's happened, but like I said, the backlash from Iran is tough to predict as of right now. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, I like honestly, Trump's first term is pretty. Trump's first term, honestly, is maybe like a C tier first term. His second term is D tier with the potential to be F tier, is what I'm saying. I just don't know. No, you know what? I'll argue with you. I'll leave him there for now. We're going on historical influence for the United States. It's tough. I know we have to listen. It's we're gonna have to debate these. It's tricky. What was the biggest issue? So here's another question. Well, okay. Here's the was Truman F because he denied helping Ho Chi Minh? Because now I'm starting to rethink Truman wouldn't be F for that. He denied helping Ho Chi Minh, but that might just be like a hey, we're not going to arm you kind of thing. Even though it did eventually lead to, you know what I mean? Which president takes the most responsibility for Vietnam? It's probably Eisenhower, right? Blau, Trump will suspend the next election to maintain power. He will, if not already, defy the Constitution because people will send me a link to a Polymarket bet, and I will drop $1,000 on whatever the bet is that he doesn't do that. I'll be the first time I will go to Kalshi Poly. I'll become a betting man and I'll actually gamble and I'll drop $1,000 that says he doesn't do that. Chat, you continue political dynasties not by fucking doing what he would have JD Vance run and continue his dynasty that way. To be fair, I don't even know if Nixon is F tier because Nixon did want to end Nixon's Watergate. Like Nixon is if anything closer to like a Trump, right? Finally, Blau has become a Kalshi shill. These are all debatable. I don't think the use of the nuclear weapons puts Truman that down. The use of the nuclear weapons is complicated. I generally think it's not good, but it's also the nuclear weapons is complicated. oversaw the Marshall Plan rebuild. Yeah, and the Marshall Plan rebuilding of formation of NATO, established early Cold War doctrine, how to deal with the USSR. And to be fair, you just made NATO and wanted to maintain alliances with France. You probably don't want to fund partisan effort in the yeah. I think I like Truman at C tier. Police, I hear them. Guys, I'll move Trump up. I'm sorry. I'll put him at B tier. I'll keep Truman at C tier. Listen, the use of the atomics on Nagasaki and Hiroshima is like it's such a complicated. That's a complicated subject. I'm not. It's also one where I'm like, I wouldn't. I think it'd make for a great. I think it'd make for a great debate. I think if someone who was really good at debating wanted to argue against the use of them historically, and I wanted to argue for the use of them, I could have that debate. I could also do it the other way around. I could also argue against them and do a really good job. Okay, Tal, I'll bet you 100 subs. Oh, no, let's do 10 subs. I'll bet you 10 subs that Trump doesn't suspend the fucking Constitution to run for a third term, okay? Deal? Digital handshake, 10 subs? Deal. All right.
Of course Blau is in the chat saying one more because he's a gooner.
Will you already get to the 10 subs? You say I won? I'll pay now, but still be right. Sheesh. Okay, fuck yeah, I'll take that. Okay. Damn, that's kind of a flex on me. Shit, now I'm gonna feel like such a jackass if I'm wrong. Oh fuck. I was here to seal the digital handshake. Thank you. No, like for instance, I could look at something like the Trail of Tears as just like horrendous, just absolutely horrendous. You know, I can look at the sort of idiocy of the Vietnam War and even some of the tactics then use it. The dropping of the bombs, Nagasaki and Hiroshima, is like, and for the people who are like, oh, we didn't just do it to end the war, we did it to there was other components to it. It was to basically demonstrate to the USSR that we had these weapons. Sure. But like that in itself was a decision, you know? We think the moral consensus at the time was for the Trail of Tears. I don't think people knew at the time the extent of the Trail of Tears. I think it's something that kind of got like, that's another thing, is that certain at the time, some people probably just didn't know about some of these things. Also, secondly, Mr. Fantastic, we now are using more. Like I would argue right now, I am now using. I wouldn't say morality. We're now kind of using like impact and. We're kind of we are sort of using now a 21st century, not view of morality, but view of maybe strategy and applying it backwards. So we actually are looking at, you know, like, I mean, I don't think people at the time would have been against the use of, yeah, I mean, like, again, if we want to talk about the nuclear weapons, bro, imagine at the time you are the average US citizen and you have no idea what the fuck a nuclear bomb is. And you're told that the United States has just built the biggest bombs that we can drop on Japan. You're like, fuck yeah, go for it. Like the average person before the bombs are dropped is 100% on board for that. Because we have no idea. That's why I would say like looking back at it is now where we're like, oh, Oh yeah. Also, this is the famous Andrew Jackson quote about the Supreme Court. Yeah, it is the one where he's like, the Supreme Court has made their decision. Now let's see them try to enforce it. Where he basically called the bluff, and it is like he basically went against one of the foundations of how the United States is supposed to be run. He basically said, I remember this because we learned about it in constitutional law class. He basically said, "Hey, the court ruled on something. We're going to ignore it." It would be, you know what, as a analogy, it would be like if Trump said, the Supreme Court has ruled on birthright citizenship. We are going to ignore their ruling. Right? Truman is also to blame for the horrific Korean War that we lost so many in too. Chat. How do we feel about the Korean War? Because yeah, we lost a lot of America, but like, isn't Korea, like, doesn't South Korea exist today because of that war? Right? Like, how do South Koreans feel about the Korean War? Right? Like, it was a UN, I thought. I mean, like, yeah, I don't. Horrific. The Korean Peninsula was bombed. So what? And this is what I always. What was the alternative, Reximus? What was the alternative? I sometimes ask these things because I'm like what is the alternative? Yeah, like Dresden was also bombed. You know, Germany was also bombed. Like what? Okay. What do you do? Do you let the North Korean army just continue marching south and get full control of the peninsula? And that's just like, you know what I mean? Like what do you do? I think a big part of history that I try to ask is like, what would you do instead? So you can even put yourself in Truman's shoes. You decide not to bomb Japan. What do you do instead? Yeah, actually, the North Koreans, like, yeah. Also, people don't know how far the North Koreans got, and like they were like deep into Korea at one point. I mean, like, yeah, one of your options is a land invasion. You hold out that the Japanese will just surrender. I do think there maybe is a question of like you hold out for a surrender. Have a surrender treaty that isn't absolute surrender. Oh, Truman's. Oh, so you're saying it was not the defense of South Korea, but it was the pushing into North Korea. Mm. Mm. They were already in a desperation. I think this is like pretty debated by scholars about whether Japan was going to surrender or not. I think that's like pretty debated. I mean that's why whenever the topic of like the atomics being used, I'm never like, oh yeah, that was awesome that we bombed those cities. No, I don't agree with that. But I'm also not like, oh my God, we're like, it was the worst thing ever. I'm like, it's a fucking, it's a mess. They were already losing materially and their military was clearly showing cracks. Just because it went better for Korea than Iraq doesn't make it better. I think the context of these is different. The context of the pause. The context of the Korean War versus the Iraq War are just they're completely different contexts. Better is yeah. So here's the question, because we now have North Korea with nukes, but what happens if the United States never got involved in Korea? What happens? I'm still like, I want someone in chat to basically explain to me. Yeah, wouldn't we just have Korea with nukes? Like, I don't. What happens if Saddam is still in power? I don't think Saddam Hussein being in power would be as great of a risk to geopolitics as a unified Korea under the control of North Korea. I don't think Saddam Hussein's Iraq is and again, I know you're trying to compare the Iraq War was a regime change. The Korean War was a defense of a regime. I think they're different situations that you're looking at. One was we went into a pretty stable country. The other was I'm sorry, working class hero. You can't compare these two. I don't know what to tell you. The shape of the Korean Peninsula following World War II was unstable, and it had been ransacked by war. Like I'm sorry, don't compare the Korean War to the Iraq War. I think that's kind of insane, right? Am I crazy, chat? Any lurkers who are history people in here, tell me if I'm crazy. I don't think the Korean War and the Iraq War are good comparisons. You can't compare any war. Oh, I think you can compare some wars. I think it's fair to compare some wars. I think you can compare certain wars and certain conflicts, but I think that one, like, I don't, that one's like, doesn't really make much sense to me. Okay. Who else do we got? Guys, we got to get through the list. Ronald Reagan. How do we feel about Ronald Reagan, Chad? I don't know. I don't think Ronald Reagan's F tier. Who was the one president that was president for like a week? Or like there was not, maybe it was a week. Was it Harrison? Yeah. There was like maybe it wasn't a week, but there was like one yeah, he served. There was like, we have a president who served for like a month. Yeah. Oh yeah, and he gave the largest speech and then died of pneumonia. I think Reagan would be C tier. Hold on, I gotta move chat away. We can talk about the nuances of every war, but Iraq. No, we can talk about the nuances of the Iraq War. I just don't think that the Iraq War was a very. I think it was generally viewed as like pretty devastating to the United States to do that, all that. Pretty severe loss of life too, and like again, it depends who you talk to. But I think a lot of people would tell you like Saddam Hussein was not like. Also, Saddam Hussein, weirdly enough, was kind of a check against Iran to some degree. So, was the Korean War. Again, I think there's like so was World War II. You have rose-colored glasses of the Korean War. I guess what I'm saying is, okay, I'll do it this way. The United States doesn't invade Iraq. Saddam Hussein continues his rule of the country. Presumably he's dead by now because he was pretty old, and he passes it on to whoever else. And they're actually kind of like probably a check in the region towards Iran. I don't think, I think I don't know. I just don't, I don't see a world where we didn't invade Iraq as bad as a world where we didn't support South Korea in the Korean War. I think that world, it looks like it has a lot more issues. Am I crazy? Am I crazy about the Yeah, it's also like we just invaded a country that was actually stable. Like we invaded a stable country for the purpose of regime change. Whereas another was like we were trying to help Korea. We were literally already in Korea trying to help them rebuild after a devastating global war. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see I don't know why we're stuck on that comparison. We were also in charge of, yeah, I feel like weren't we already sort of occupying South Korea because we were literally occupying it like as a result of the war with Japan? Like, I don't know why we're stuck on the Korea War versus Iraq War. Now I think some people were bringing up good points that like maybe the handling of the Korean War and how extensively we pushed it maybe was bad, but I don't know. To be fair, I will also admit, chat, I don't know ball about the Korean War. I don't know, but it does seem one where I'm like, a war could be really bad, but I'm like, what's the other option? Like, is the other option that we just leave South Korea and don't rebuild it? And it gets right, like, and I feel like then it's like the USSR / like Soviet influence. So we leave it and we don't rebuild it. And so we leave it, we don't rebuild it, and it's then just completely a communist country under the influence of the Soviets. Yeah, so like so we say World War II ends, and we're just like, actually, you guys just take, like, hey, South Koreans, good luck. Sorry, guys. We're not going to help you rebuild. The guys up north, the communists, they now run you. Goodbye. You think the USSR would have done better? No, I don't. I don't. That's why I don't That's why I don't think it was good for us to just leave. That's my point. They would fail to. So let them fail. Wait. What do you mean let them fail at what? Wait, what? Wait. To be clear, I think if the United States had pulled out of following World War II, if the United States just didn't help South Korea rebuild or just any part of Korea rebuild, we take all of our funding and all of our troops and we just leave. The USSR isn't going to control. No, I think it would be a unified North Korea under USSR influence. Not for long. No, I think it would be a unified Korea under USSR influence. I that's what I think they would be. Right? I disagree. What do you think they would be? Do you think I don't. What would they have done? Like, who would make them not under USSR influence? Yeah, I agree. I do agree. I do agree that, like, you could argue maybe like the USS trying to push into their own thing. That is like saying Ukraine will always be under Russian influence. So wait, let me get this straight. World War II ends. You have a ransacked Korean peninsula that was a Japanese imperial colony. It has been devastated by war, and you want the United States to not invest in it and not protect it militarily from an encroaching communist northern regime, and you want it to just leave and then just be like, yeah, good luck. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with this one. I'm gonna have to go with this. I don't know if I agree with this one, chat. You know what? I think we gotta. It's not just the U.S. though. It was the whole ass UN. I think we got to move on. We got to move on to the next president, guys. I'm just gonna go ahead and say, at the time of conflict, North Korea was under USSR management and South Korea was under USA management, per the stipulations of the Japanese surrender. USSR and USA were both involved. If USA left when North Korea invaded, South Korea would no longer exist. That is very different than US invading Iraq to try to prevent an invasion. Yeah. Should we have now? This is a great question. Should we have protected Vietnam from an encroaching communist regime? I think that the difference between Korea and Vietnam is that, one, we were already in Korea. Like, we already were basically assuming stewardship and rebuilding efforts of Korea. So we were already there. And it was like us or that. Secondly, Vietnam is always such and I don't know if we fully this is a tough one to sort of know at the time, but like we said, Vietnam, while it was a communist movement in nature, Vietnam was much more about the Vietnamese taking control of their country from the colonial French, right? Well, I don't think Vietnam, like, I don't think Vietnam also, I think the decision to go into Vietnam was kind of complicated. I don't know. I don't know enough ball there. Can we agree though that wouldn't Vietnam and Korea be different though? Because again, it's like our troop, like, I don't think you guys understand that like North Korea was not North, sorry, the Korean Peninsula was devastated by the war. Like it got fucked up. So I think the state of the Korean Peninsula was different than trying to look at Vietnam. Yeah, every war is different. Yeah, that's why we're trying to sort of discuss and evaluate them. And that's why I don't think, I haven't I been saying that this whole time, that every war is different? I think you can compare them, but obviously some are different. We shouldn't have been involved in either. American intervention helps no one. We intervened in a war in Europe twice. I would argue that helped. You keep comparing them all until it isn't convenient. Okay. Let me compare them. I will compare the Korean War, the Iraq War, and the Vietnam War very briefly. The Iraq War, we went in, we destabilized a stable country to bring about regime change. Vietnam, we went in to fight a communist push from the north into the south, and we brought troops there and brought influence over there to try to stop that communist push there. Korea, different than both of those because we already assumed stewardship over South Korea, just as the USSR assumed stewardship over North Korea to help rebuild the two following a devastating global conflict, which makes it markedly different than the other two. Lurkers or anyone else in chat, am I clear on my comparison and contrasting of those three wars? Do I sound crazy? Do those kind of make sense? Am I kind of in the ballpark of trying to understand those? Right, and it is reasonable to say all three were bad decisions. I would disagree and tell you that the Korean War was inevitable. That's what I would counter with that. World War II was almost entirely won by the USSR. Okay. That is very interesting. I did not know that. I did not. War with Saddam Hussein was inevitable. I disagree. I don't think war with Saddam Hussein was inevitable. World War II was almost entirely won by the USSR. Respectfully, I disagree with that point too. Instead of elaborating, I'm just going to tell chat like I disagree. Are you serious? You just used the same thing they said about Saddam. It was inevitable. I don't know if war with Saddam Hussein was inevitable or not. I can tell you the war with Korea seemed pretty inevitable. And I think the counter argument of we just leave South Korea and don't rebuild it and just let the USSR take all of South Korea following World War II probably would not be good. And you know what? That's just my opinion though. That's just my opinion. But you know the Korean War was? No, I think it was. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. That's just my opinion. I don't know. Don't get your politics from streamers. Great. That is different than what you said. You know what? Chat, I think the CTE is getting to me. I don't even know what I said at this point. I don't even know what I said. You know what? And I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm also going to say this. I think the U.S. was important in helping to win World War II. I get my politics from TikTok edits. Listen, I think I'm laughing. I laugh because I think sometimes things I'm saying, and maybe lurkers rise up. Lurkers, does it feel like sometimes I say something and then I feel like people like twist my words or like latch on to something when they're not kind of getting the main gist of what I was kind of saying? I need to beg for some lurkers here. Lurkers, please. I feel like sometimes I get misunderstood, but I feel like my general points, I try to. Where do we rank Eisenhower, guys? Where do we rank Eisenhower? Lurker here, I think people use particular words you say too literally and ignore the concept. I think they're miscommunication, but you know, I agree with this, Fire Death. I think maybe I'm not understanding the points they're trying to make. Maybe we should just be like, hey, what's the point you're trying to make? I know, I'm calling on lurkers too much. This is deep. Also, text makes it tricky, chat. I appreciate you guys for trying. I appreciate you guys for trying. Guys, where do we think Sleepy Joe is? Where's Sleepy Joe? I don't really think I think Biden would be just like a C or a D, right? Like he didn't really do much. We're mostly like, I think Trump could be F tier, but I was saying like I just don't know if like his influence of his second term puts him there yet. High D. Okay, I have to call out this one. Oh, Trump has ended the Iran war like 20 times, guys. He's probably our number one president when it comes to ending wars. I think it's crazy. Some of y'all think Russia didn't take on the brunt of the German army. Killex, I'm gonna shatter your mind here. You know that there was another war, like there was another front to World War II. There was this other country, Land of the Rising Sun, that was involved in World War II. That the U.S. was also fighting at the time. Like there was another theater. There was a whole other theater of war. It was crazy. Okay, yeah. Okay, but what does the Pacific Theater have to do with the German army? Exactly. Wait, there were people in chat saying the USSR weren't involved in the war until the US got involved and that there were no major battles in Russia. Oh, no, there was massive battles in Russia. Oh, don't get me wrong. The USSR was pivotal. And when, like, of the forces involved in World War II, the USSR, the two biggest forces of the Allies were the US and the USSR. The USSR was certainly pivotal. But to be like, the US was not, like, the US was not needed to win World War II, that's fucking insane. Yeah, like, just got here. Why is Big George not okay? Now you know what? That's a good point. Let's rate on golf swings. Okay. Now watch this drive. Oh, guys, it's too much politics for me today. I can't handle it anymore. We've done way too much politics today. I can't do this anymore. Let's chill. I'm going to be really honest with you guys. I don't like talking politics with chat. It's not. I don't think I enjoy it. I shouldn't have. I've made a terrible mistake. Let's play Dixon Dallas. I admire your willingness to even attempt this. Yeah, I can't. Chat cleanse. No more let's clear it. I can't. It's too much. Let's get back to like dumb IRL streams and gaming. It was a terrible mistake. It was a terrible mistake. Oh, it's time to go to I low-key hopped over here to take a break from politics only to get more. Blau, can we rank American wars? I'm going to crash out. I don't ever. General Peartree, you tried to write slur tier list, but you wrote slut tier list. You want me to do a slut tier list? Also, yeah, I feel like part of the problem with like, I do think one of the issues with discussing politics with chat is like I'll be having a conversation with like one chatter. I notice it's like I'll have a conversation with one chatter and I'll like actually be engaging with debating them, and then another chatter will come in and say the most insane shit ever, and then I'm like having to fucking deal with that too, and I'm like fucking bouncing off booty cheeks, going back to back. It's too messy. I can't. Listen, I think in general, it's better to have these sorts of conversations with people in person where you can talk things out and not in a fucking chat room with chat. Or better yet, is I would talk about them and then just not respond to chat. I just don't think I can respond to chat. Kim Petras, S tier slut pop queen. True. Yeah, it's like talking about politics in a room where hundreds of people can yell at you. Yeah, it's too much. Anyways. All right. Well, we've got listen, chat. In the month of July, I have my one politics stream done. Never, once a month. Now we're done. We move on. Anyways, happy birthday, America, for all the good and bad of the country. I would also like to request a slut tier list. No. I got to go get ready for the core 4th of July party. Chat. Thank you guys for tuning into the stream. Artificial Amateur, Retro Side, Patiz, FW Block, The Boneless King, General Pear Tree, everyone who's tuning into the stream today, guys. Also, thank you for all the subs, the gifted subs, the crazy debates in chat. You guys were awesome. We got through. We got through another politics. We did it. Bless you guys. I will see you guys tomorrow. I think we are doing an IRL stream with Bonnie tomorrow. I'll see you guys then. Thank you guys so much. And meanwhile, I'm slowly gathering energy and gathering prep to get ready for role play, GTA 6 coming out, all the good GTA stuff. I will see you guys tomorrow. Goodbye.